Hey, what's up, listener? Thank you for pressing play. This week on the Jock and Nerd podcast, it's the latest entry into our series called What the Fuck Happened, where we take a look at a comic book bomb of a movie and try to figure out what the fuck happened. This time, we're going all the way back to 1987 to marvel at Dolph Lundgren's amazing mullet in Masters of the Universe.
Wowie zowie!
Joining us and doing all the hard work is the ginger geek Matt Delhauer, and in a first for the series, also joining us is special guest Adam Morris, who is a huge fan of He-Man and literally requested us to shit on his childhood. No problem. All in this edition of the Jock and Nerd Weekly for Thursday, July 26th, 2018.
Check one. All right, this is ruling fans out there. Let's give it up. We jockin', we nerdin', we funny, disturbing. We jockin', we nerdin', we spoiler alert. Oh yeah, we jockin', we nerdin', we funny, disturbing. Oh yeah, I'm jockin', we nerdin', we spoiler alert.
That's right. What's up? Hello, and welcome, listener, to the Jock and Nerd podcast, your weekly geekly, giving you comic book and superhero TV and movie news reviews and whatever we choose. Jock and Nerd. My name is Imran.
My name is Rug Boy.
He's the Rug Boy.
And he's the nerd.
We are sans jock this episode, but we have an all-star lineup of a pair of great individuals, friends of the show, they're listeners, they're patrons, and they are contributors. Of course, we've seen the title. This is our latest edition of the What the Fuck Happened series, where we take a comic book bomb of a movie and figure out what the fuck happened. And we can't do it without our leader, our creator, the guy who gave birth to this thing, host of the Ginger Geek pod, the Ginger Geek himself. It's Matt Delhauer. What's up, Matty?
Thank you for referring to me as your leader. I have been waiting to reveal that this was a cult the whole time.
I knew it.
You figured it out. But you already paid, and I already bought the tracksuits.
Yeah, I watched that Waco documentary with what's-his-face, and I was like, this feels really similar to something. Can't put my finger on it.
Now, your thetan levels are a little low, Imran, so what we're going to have to do...
When's that spaceship supposed to show up? Also joining us in a very rare special event for a What the Fuck Happened movie, we have the official science guy of the Jock and Nerd podcast. The doctor comes before his name and PhD comes after his name. Of course, it's Adam Morris. What's up, Prince Adam?
By the power of Grayskull, I'm very excited to be here.
Oh,
boys.
shit. There you go. Way to kick it off.
Somebody's excited to be doing it. I forgot the movie that we're doing this today, and I didn't watch the movie.
Yeah, me too.
You don't need to watch the movie. That is the beauty of what we do here. Now, look, for the new listener, check out the website. The show notes are very important, jockandnerd.com/232, where it's got links to everything we're going to talk about, links how to subscribe to the show so you never miss a show. And sometimes there's YouTube videos. Sometimes there's images in there that we refer to. You definitely want to check out the website. Delhauer, how about a quick origin of What the Fuck Happened? What is this series? And this is the 9th one. Congratulations to us all. Before we get started, I want you to tell the new listener what they can expect.
Okay. Dear listener, I am subjected to watching a terrible movie based on a comic book. I then have to take notes on it, which means I have to pay attention. I then have to also look into the background and do research about how the movie was made, why, and figure out why it was so bad, hence being called What the Fuck Happened. We've been doing it for about 2-3 years, almost 3 years now. Holy shit.
Forever.
Yeah, I know.
The 9th time we've put you through this torture. And with that, let's just fucking kick it off. The Jock and Nerd.
God bless you, Delhauer.
Thanks for taking all this torture and the bullet. We are going to be recapping and figuring out Masters of the Universe from 1987. Do I need to give a spoiler alert for this movie?
Hit it anyway.
Oh, okay. It's fun.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
You never know.
Yeah,
They
you always
all
have to
die.
You have to disclaimer everything now.
Spoilers.
So might
I
as
feel
well.
like the post-credit scene is really the only spoiler in this entire movie.
Oh, that's a good point.
They wanted a sequel and they never got it.
and
I didn't
they're-
even know there was one.
Me
What happened?
neither until I looked this up. Oh, we'll get into that.
All right.
Does anybody remember how do we pick this movie? This is where Adam Morris comes in, I believe.
Yeah.
I think since the moment that I met you guys and I heard the first "What the fuck happened," I was petitioning very hard at both Delhauer and at you guys to do this because it's a pretty unique and ridiculous film. So.
And it was such a weird reasoning that you came forward and you said, I want you to do What the Fuck Happened to Masters of the Universe because I love the movie.
I know.
Oh, shit.
So this is a very weird, awkward
Like,
position.
you willingly watched this movie.
Listen,
More than once.
Love this movie.
this was whatever. We can get into it in a second, but like it was the tail end of like my early childhood. So this
Right.
like
Yeah.
encapsulated
Yeah.
a lot of things that really shaped my young life. You know, so I know it's bad, but it's still I forced myself into the point where I have to say
It's
that I
not
like
the
it.
worst movie if you're looking at 80s movies.
No,
you know?
absolutely. We
It's-
did Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So there are some depths that we have gone through. Now, to get things started, to get everyone in the mood, I'm not going to play the bullshit soundtrack from the movie. All respect to Bill Conti. I'm sure he's a great guy and a great composer, but it was fucking lame. There's only one way to get everyone in the mood for this, and it's like this. And I'm playing the whole fucking thing because Anthony's not here.
And the masters of the universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull!" Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe.
And then he punches the audience.
Yes, he punches it right in the face. Yes, he does.
Our friends,
Why
the
would he do
sorcerers.
that?
He just smacks you like a bitch.
This entire thing just goes to show how fucking stupid they thought kids were in the 80s.
Hey, easy.
I'm not saying kids were stupid. I'm saying they thought you were stupid.
Look, I don't know about you guys, but I am 8 years old with a bowl of cereal sitting 3 inches from the television, which is, if you ask my mom why I have glasses to this day. But wow, like that's got to take you back. Now, here's why this is awkward, because traditionally when I'm editing back one of these What the Fuck Happens, where we're just destroying this movie, I'm like, you know what? This is somebody's favorite movie that's listening, and we are just shitting all over it, and now that person is here with us. This is why it's awkward. How much do you love He-Man, Adam Morris?
Like I said, it shaped like the early part of my childhood. I was born in 1980, so it was right around the time they conceptualized this entire thing, right? So
Yeah.
I was 3-4 years old when the action figures really hit, and like you were saying, Saturday morning cartoons, they would just bombarded us with these commercials for these toys, and then the Filmation cartoon was out. And yeah, I mean, my love for it grew like exponentially. And in 1984, I got that Christmas. I still remember that Christmas because it was the first one I can remember. But I got Castle Grayskull.
You got the Grayskull playset, lucky.
I got the 2-pack that had He-Man and Battle Cat in it.
Oh, somebody had rich parents.
No
No. My parents were teenagers. They just saved up for this. And
Oh, that's
because
right. That's
they,
right.
They knew that there was no, holding me off of this. And then that same year, my cousin got all the bad guys and Snake Mountain. So he was a couple years younger than me. So when we met up, like we had everything, and it just became like a huge part of my life for a few years there.
Yeah.
And shout out to my cousin Bob and my little nephew Jack, who love He-Man as well. But honestly, it was the first thing that I became obsessed with, where I was like, I have to have these toys. I have to know the stories,
Yeah.
Kids still love He-Man today.
like-
Bugs, what's your He-Man fandom?
Well, I'm a little bit older than Adam here.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 years older. So basically, by the time the toys came out, I was like, like 5 or whatever, or something like that.
And I remember that they came with comic books.
Yeah,
Like
there
those
was a
figures
comic
came
book
with
first.
comics,
Yep,
and
yep.
the comics were like, and I could like not read the comics, but I could kind of tell what was going on by looking at the illustrations, and then you know, I asked a friend to like read it to me or whatever, my aunt or whatever. So I remember the comics before the cartoon, and it being like kind of like really badass and like cool.
The comics were totally different and
They were
very,
different.
very,
Yep,
very,
yep.
very much cooler. For sure.
Yeah. So-
it was a lot darker, and then they changed the story. Delhauer, what's your history with the He-Man?
I don't have one. I was born in '89.
Oh, snap.
Oh, shit.
So, like, no connection to this at all. Had you seen this movie before?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, this
Well,
gotta
the thing
be
is,
great.
it's like, look, when I was a kid, we had G.I. Joes.
Yeah, yep.
We had the Mego action figures. Then they started coming out with some of the Kenner figures and Star Wars and stuff,
Yep.
which were small figures. These
Yep.
are like big fucking figures.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally set them apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were ripped. I mean, He-Man was jacked. There was never a figure that was jacked like the Hulk. Like, even the Hulk figures were not that jacked.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I remember, Adam had in his notes talking about the episode of the Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us,
Yes.
that talks about the He-Man figures and them talking specifically about the size of the figures being part of the selling point. Is
Yep,
they were
they're
like,
like,
we
yep.
want these things to stand out against anything that's on the shelf.
Just make them huge.
You know what pissed me off though, and again, they actually mentioned it in that episode, is that when I got that Castle Grayskull set, I had the very first one, and the fucking figures did not fit through the stupid door of the castle.
Yes. And they mentioned it in that episode. They didn't make it big enough. They're like, oh fuck, we made these things too big. All I had was Battle Damage He-Man and Trapjaw, and I wanted that fucking Grayskull.
I had a fuckload of toys. I think I had everything, pretty much.
Yeah, I passed them off to my younger cousins eventually, but I had almost everything.
I think I had the first 2 or 3 waves of everything of He-Man.
Yeah, man, they were fucking everywhere. Adam Morris, help me set up this movie. A movie that has a fucking incredible Drew Struzan poster.
I love that poster.
A movie that does not deserve this fucking poster. That's
No.
for sure. Like, if the movie looked like this poster, we wouldn't be here right now on a What the Fuck Happened show. But Adam, tell us when this movie came out and some of the creatives behind it.
So yeah, I mean, the release date alone was a bit off, right? Because it came out in August 7th, 1987, and that was just post like the whole He-Man craze.
Yeah, 5 years after the show aired.
Because they had
initially.
already transitioned the He-Man cartoon into She-Ra,
Right.
which is what turned me off. And as Rug Boy said, I moved over to like G.I. Joe and Transformers already because, you know, I lost interest in He-Man when the cartoon wasn't there.
It was late in the popularity of the character.
That cartoon actually killed my interest in He-Man. The actual cartoon was actually so ridiculous and so not like that. Like, because think about it. Like, at the time, there was Thundar the Barbarian. There was all these other shows on that were like way more like kind of badass and more like serious or more like less silly.
totally. Even when I was 5 or 6, I started to realize that like, yeah, it's the same background every single time they run past there. Something
He-Man sounds like a little boy when he's Adam for some reason.
And that's why everyone moved on to Thundercats.
Yeah, Thundercats.
Oh, Thundercats is way better by far, by a million times the TV show.
Absolutely.
Forget it.
Absolutely.
Actually, the figures, the Thundercats figures are not as cool as the He-Man figures, but
the He-Man figures were well ahead of their time. I think
It's
there was
one of those
so
weird
much
things where
variety.
Yeah, like the toys for it were so much above everything else because that was the point. Like they made the toys and then they made the cartoon to sell the toys.
Yep.
You had a lot of other shows where it was like they made the cartoon to sell the toys, but they didn't have the toys until the cartoon was out.
Everything else was an afterthought after the toy.
But yeah, back to the release. So like it was directed by this guy named Gary Goddard, whose name you don't recognize because he's never directed anything else.
Nope. One and done, my friend.
He was a Broadway director and a theme park designer. So he designed like those early immersive theme park kind of rides where you sit there and there'd be like the screen coming up and showing you like you were going through some kind of ride.
Yeah. Huh.
But he had never directed a movie, so I think that tells you a little bit about where Canon Films was at the time.
I mean, let's be honest. If you hit perfection your first time, why try again?
He's like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm never going to do better than He-Man Masters of the Universe.
And another indicator that maybe this wasn't going to be the best was the same writer, David Odell, who wrote Supergirl, which is, well, again, one of the most famously horrible movies of the 80s that crushed part of my childhood.
Yeah, we'll be there some point.
I think we're going to have to get there because I've never seen that movie.
But he did also write The Dark Crystal, which is
that's
a pretty badass movie. So, But
you mean when Jim Henson was like doing a bunch of drugs and like doing what no one else told him to?
Oh, there was a lot of cocaine in that movie, I'm sure.
Yeah, I definitely think that movie was fueled by drugs.
You guys think I can only make Muppets? I'll fucking show you. I'll show everybody. First, I'm going to rearrange this room, and then I'll show you.
Puppets were doing drugs on the set of that movie. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what the rumor is, yeah.
And then the next piece of the puzzle is the fact that you had these guys, Yoram Globus. And Menahem Golan, who sound like supervillains in and of themselves.
Globus
right?
and Golan, yes.
Oh, yeah, those are absolutely henchmen to somebody.
Yeah.
And they were the notoriously stingy producers. Like, they just made movies rapid fire as fast as they could and did it on as little budget as they could. But for this one, they obviously saw some potential because they put more money into it than Superman 4 even.
Well, Cannon, you got to mention, the listeners going to be familiar with the Cannon who always made the low budget. They fucked up Superman 4. They were going to make Spider-Man at one point, and that thing fell through, and I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah, that would have been nightmare. But
there's a documentary on them. I forgot what it's called, but there is a documentary on the Cannon Group.
On the Cannon Group. I bet it's fascinating.
Yeah.
How much did this movie cost, and what did it make?
So initially the budget was $17 million. Then somewhere in production they decided they needed another $5 million, so they dumped that in there. So the total budget ended up at $22 million.
Okay.
But as we'll get into the what the fuck happened part, that became an issue. But the total box office was just over $17 million.
Oh my God! They didn't even make their money back.
And I mean, at the time, given again even the residual kind of hype. But that is just a horrible, horrible take. And the runtime of the movie, too, is quite short, given, the hype around it. It's only 106 minutes long. So, but yeah, they didn't put enough money into it to make a movie set on a foreign world.
This is the definition of a commercial box office failure right here. Like, you don't need any more.
I think they should have risked it and went low budget and done the whole thing in Eternia.
I mean,
they should have done it.
As we'll get into, a lot of it was there. So most notably starring Dolph Lundgren, fresh off Rocky 5 or 4. Sorry.
How dare you? How dare you say Rocky 5 on this podcast?
Sorry, Rocky 4. And before he was the Punisher in '89, and he has amazing golden wispy mullet hair. His hair is just amazing in this movie.
And I think
that's got to be a wig, right?
Is it?
No. I think that's fully his legit hair at the time.
Oh, his hair is still luxurious.
Dude, it was 87. The wispy mullet was the thing.
No, the worst part was the fact that his hair looked like a wig.
Yellow.
But Rocky 4 definitely warmed him up to being like baby oiled for the entire movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
he was very shiny. Also, we have a 23-year-old Courtney Cox in this movie playing the female Julie Winston. And she's just adorable. Friends hasn't beaten her down yet. She's full of hope. She looks like a little anime character. And famously, Frank Langella as Skeletor, who is just fucking kind of chewing the scenery and everything.
He was in Superman Returns? I forgot that he was.
Yeah, he was Perry White.
Oh, shit.
That's right. He was. And he was in Darkman. He was the bad guy in Darkman. I always remember him from that.
I don't remember the scenes when they're at the Daily Planet and he's just sitting there screaming, "Bring me He-Man."
No, I don't.
Bring me the sword. I
don't remember Superman Returns. It's so foggy in my memory.
We're still 4 parsecs away from moonrise.
Oh, shit.
How many chromons till this movie's over is what I kept asking myself while I loved it. Okay, so we are at that point. We're going to start with the recap, but before I'm going to tell a listener, if you want to get in touch with the show, send us your memories of Masters of the Universe. Just visit our contact page on the website, jockandnerd.com/contact, where you'll find our Twitter page, our Facebook page, and the awesome Facebook group, Jock and Nerd Nation. What's up, Nation? Jock and Nerd represent. It's a closed group for our listeners. Welcome this week, listeners, Patrick, Steven, and Keithan Denkinger, which is a great name, Mr. Denkinger. Thanks for finding the show. Thanks for joining the group.
Also, for Rug's knowledge, Electric Boogaloo, the wild untold story of canon films.
Oh,
documentary.
Check that out. Ooh, I will put a link in the show notes to that. That sounds amazing. Now, here you go. Here's going to be your audio cue to get the recap started, Delhauer. I watched a little couple of He-Man episodes last night, and every scene transition, you get this. So you may be hearing that every time the scene changes.
Awesome.
And lights go out in the theater and the curtains up, Delhauer.
Okay, so our film begins by fading in on a shot of Castle Grayskull on the planet Eternia. At which point we are subjected to a voiceover that is trying to explain to us everything that is Eternia, He-Man, Skeletor, Grayskull, the Power, the Sorceress, etc. The entire concept that is everything that this movie is based on is attempting to be told to us in about a minute and a half. It doesn't do that great a job. We then immediately come into the throne room as Skeletor has taken over Castle Grayskull and is commenting that he has taken the Sorceress prisoner, and now all they have to do is capture He-Man and his sword so that he can get the power of Grayskull and become a master of the universe. Problem is that He-Man is apparently leading a resistance group on the planet that consists of him, Man-at-Arms, and Teela, and that is it.
They don't show us any of that war. Like, the whole lead up to this, you know? Like, why
There's
not?
a huge war, and then two people show up to back it up.
This is such an 80s thing as well, because this is exactly like Terminator, how we find out that all of the stuff going on in the future war with Kyle Reese is like, it already happened and it's over. Like, we blew up Skynet, we won, or at least we thought we won. It's like, well, show me that. Show me the war you were in. Show me you blowing up Skynet. Oh, you don't have that money? All right, I get it.
All this cool stuff we just told you about, we're not showing you any of it. And also, our first look at fan favorite characters from the cartoon who looked nothing at all like their cartoon counterparts. It was very, very disappointing.
Evil Lynn was pretty good, I gotta say. That costume's not bad.
Yeah, Evil Lynn is good, but as far as Man-at-Arms, I don't know.
I have to say, though, I think I'm a really big
Old
fan.
Man-at-Arms.
Yeah, Old
I'm a really
Man-at-Arms.
big fan of Teela having her weird alien backwards visor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That too.
I thought that Teela kind of looked like Matthew Fox.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
she's
God,
a
yes.
pretty girl. Looks like maybe your sister, Matthew
Kelsey
Fox.
Field. Never
Got
had
some
her.
beautifully teased hair, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad to see that Aquanet made its way all the way to Eternia.
The way this movie opens, though, you're just looking at a legit concept drawing.
It's a matte painting. It's a
matte-
fucking painting.
It's not even a matte painting that's convincing you that it's real. It's just
Right.
like it looks like concept art.
Yeah.
And as far as we can tell, Eternia consists of 3 sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the interior of the throne room,
Yeah.
which they obviously blew half the budget on. There is the random, like, rock quarry, like, just, like, hallway?
Tatooine. It looks like
Yeah,
Tatooine.
the Tatooine set that they're on when they decide to jump the black stormtroopers who are stealing, what's his name? Guado?
Gwildor.
Sure.
Gwildor.
Gwildor,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
I am never going to say his name right. It's fine. He's
Great.
Orko.
Yep.
And then you have also Gwildor's, like, hut, which is very obviously just like Ben Kenobi's hut.
Or Yoda's little hut, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's a combination of both.
Yep.
And that's it. So anyway, we after we get the whole exposition of, you know, he needs to find He-Man and he needs to stop him, we find He-Man out in the field, ready to ambush a whole bunch of Skeletor troopers or whatever they're called.
The shittiest stormtroopers you're ever
What are
going
they
to see.
called in the movie? They're called like the Guard or the.
I was like, everything had like either Skeletor or something like that in the name to let you know who they worked for.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it's all black plastic armor doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
All I know is that they had to be robots so that He-Man could actually hit them with his sword.
And they never mention it.
They were all robots, were they? Oh, yeah, they were.
Because
They just-
Mattel wouldn't allow him to hit an actual human being with his sword.
That's why they explode sometimes when they get hit.
I thought that was just supposed to be the fact that his sword was super powerful.
Yeah, I was like, why did he explode? Okay.
They jump these guards, they take them down, and they save Gwildor, the tiny little creature from Legend, who apparently is a master locksmith and a tinkerer, and created the cosmic key. And that's apparently how Skeletor took Castle Grayskull. He just, like, teleported into it, and there was like, well, now that I'm here, I guess I win.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
At which point he's like, but I made a second one, because why wouldn't I?
Of course.
And that second one is being hunted by Skeletor as well, because he knew about it. And they're all excited because they're like, oh, with this second cosmic key, we could transport ourselves into Castle Grayskull and take out Skeletor, right? He goes, yeah, absolutely. Like, great, we're going to use it. Oh, wait, we're under attack. oh, well, that's fine. Just use these secret passages in the back of my hut that lead directly into the throne room of Castle Grayskull. Well, all right then.
It's a little weird.
And again, given that Skeletor already had Gwildor captive and forced him to give him the key, it would have been a lot easier just to be like, just give me the key to the passageways. Like, what the hell?
Well, even worse is the fact that it's like, well, he took me hostage and I made him a key because my race, like, we totally just trust everybody. Okay.
Gwildor's
so I
played
made a
both
second
sides.
one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, he said that
oh,
she
I
was
don't trust
hot.
anybody.
He said that like Evil Lynn was hot.
Yeah.
He's like, she
Yes.
was very beautiful.
And it's very, very much insinuated that she seduced the key out of him.
Oh.
Ew.
So they get into the throne room. There's an altercation with a whole bunch of the troopers, and they use their key to escape. But because Gwildor was just punching in keys randomly, they wind up on Earth. And then this is where Howard the Duck starts. So now we get our wonderful fish out of water story of a bunch of aliens on planet Earth, but not before we set up our A-plot of Courtney Cox, a young high schooler who is apparently moving to New Jersey before the end of her senior year to be there because her parents are dead.
My parents are dead. I'm going to Jersey.
I gotta go to Jersey.
Well, why wouldn't
I'm gonna
she?
go
There's no one there to
fist
tell her not to go to Jersey.
I need to go to the shore and fist pump with Snooki. I need to go there.
It's everything. Everything about her storyline is just like, I'm so
It's
sad.
weird. Yeah.
I'm going to miss everything out here. Well, then don't move. No, I gotta.
I want to
Why?
be close to New York, but not that close.
Yeah, it's also revealed. Yeah, she's moving to glorious New Jersey for her, restart in life. It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. It absolutely has to be like, well, I could get a job in New York, but like New York prices, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm only 17 and not graduating high school.
I hear Hoboken's nice.
Yeah.
So she meets up with her boyfriend that she's breaking up with because she's moving to Jersey, played by the dude who would be like one of the leads on Star Trek Voyager in the 90s.
That's crazy.
I didn't put that together until I, again, was doing the research for the show, but that's why I recognize his face.
Yeah, what's funny is that every time I looked at him, I kept seeing Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, did they want Anthony Michael Hall for
Or like
this
an
movie?
Andrew McCarthy
I was
kind
going to
of.
say, he looked
yeah,
to me like a
yeah.
budget level Andrew McCarthy,
Yeah,
almost,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Robert
That's a good
Duncan
one.
McNeil playing Kevin Corrigan. He was also a producer and director on Chuck. This guy did a lot of shit afterwards. Just did not hurt his career at all.
Apparently not. I mean, hell, Leah Thompson bounced back from Howard the Duck, so I guess anything's possible,
That's
man.
true.
That's true.
So she meets up with Kevin and brings him ribs in a bucket for dinner.
I thought it was fried chicken or whatever it was.
Oh no, he says
It's
it's
both.
ribs.
It's both.
Oh,
It's chicken and ribs.
Oh, it's the chicken and ribs combo, of course.
Who wouldn't?
Oh, lovely.
And
And I do think they were probably fishing for a Kentucky Fried Chicken sponsorship at this point, but they couldn't get
did
it.
not get it.
but
Yeah,
Cannon was not
clearly.
willing to put out that money.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, oh well, you shouldn't move to New Jersey, and she's like, yeah, but I'm gonna, and he's like, okay, are you at least gonna come by and see the sound check that I have for my band playing our fucking prom?
Were you gonna come to my sound check?
And she's like, yeah, totally. And sound check apparently is just Kevin.
Yeah, he
I'm
could be-
starting to think
Yes.
Kevin's the only one in this band.
Was there anybody else in this band? We didn't see them.
No.
Yeah.
But before that happens, we then get to see that
Kevin was an early live looper, is what it was.
Nice,
Like, very
nice,
early.
okay.
Yeah.
We see that the He-Man crew has landed on Earth, apparently just outside of this chicken and rib shack. And they are so hungry that they use a grappling gun to steal a bucket of ribs out of someone's car while they are just making out furiously in the parking lot. Which leads to an
great.
awkward joke
Yes.
of a father telling his daughter that he used to bang her mom in a car.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
He's like,
I was
that's
doing
right.
that with your mom before you were, or like, I think it was something like, I was doing that before you were born. It's like, I would assume because she had to be born.
I still do it.
At which point, we then learn that apparently, like, everyone on Eternia, except for Man-at-Arms, is, like, viciously vegetarian.
Yeah, they're fucking hardcore vegans. She's like, what? This is flesh? Ew.
Now, I have to find the note that I wrote about it because I loved this concept entirely. She comments, "What a barbaric world," at the idea of eating ribs. The alien guerrilla fighter who just escaped a war-torn hellscape has decided that Earth is barbaric because we eat meat.
That's where she's drawing the line. Yeah.
I'll say there must have been some overlying vegetarian thing, like in the filmmaker or something, because before that as well, they turned around and there's just like a cow in the woods, right? Like when they're chatting.
Right. And he's trying to talk to it.
And Gwildor's trying to talk to the cow. Like it's just, again, there's no, I don't know.
Why? What is
have you ever
point?
seen have you ever seen a wild cow in the forest?
No, and this absolutely just reeks.
In India, they're just everywhere.
This absolutely just reeks of somebody was like, this is going to be hilarious. And then as it plays out, you realize this is not fucking hilarious.
It's not good at all.
And that was basically like Gwildor's whole thing was like, he's the comedic relief, but because he's the weird fucking puppet guy, none of it's funny.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh.
What are you trying to say, Delhauer?
Fighting words.
It's taken me this long to finally say it, Ruggs. But I love you. Back on Eternia, Skeletor is very upset that He-Man just went somewhere. And he needs him because he apparently needs his sword. Now, here's the thing. I keep talking about the fact that he needs He-Man's sword to gain the power of Eternia and the universe.
Yeah.
This is never once spoken of in the film.
No, it's
never.
And it's not how he gets the power in the end.
Yeah.
They never mention
That's a good point.
the fact that he needs He-Man alive. The only thing that we find out is He-Man needs to get back to Eternia before Moonrise to save the sorceress, at which point she's going to lose all of her power.
Yeah.
Skeletor just keeps saying he needs He-Man back alive, but won't say why. Until like a half hour later. When he then says, well, I need him alive because I need everyone on the planet to watch him like bow down to me. So that way they will actually follow me and he won't be a martyr for their cause.
Kneel before Zod.
Exactly.
Yeah, little Neil before Zod right there. Yep.
But initially we keep being told, no, I need him alive. And all I can think is, why? Like with him gone, you rule the planet. What the hell? What are you upset about?
Yeah.
You won.
Presumably the sorceress is the one that holds the power, not him.
Yeah. It's like they fucked off to a different universe. You don't know where he is, but you know what? You probably have a pretty good idea that he doesn't know how to get back.
Yeah, it's wide open.
So like, screw it. Why don't you just party for a while, and then when He-Man shows up, then kill him?
Yeah, and he'd be all cocaine and like drug addled from hanging out in the Earth in the 80s, like, you know.
He was in what I assume is California too, so like he is right on heroin highway.
Yeah.
Eat meat. You know?
Yeah, he's gonna be all fat from the gristle.
Yeah.
All the ribs and chicken and shit.
So as we come back to Earth, they go to visit her dead parents' grave.
Oh, that's right.
Because in a bit of ADR as they're leaving the chicken joint, she says, I want to visit my parents' grave and say goodbye to them. And you go, oh, your parents are dead.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's not interesting. They go to the grave. There's even more ADR about, I never told anybody this, but it's my fault they're dead. At which point, if I was Kevin, I'd be like, why would you kill them?
Like, holy shit, you killed them.
And it all comes down to like, well, they wanted to go to the beach, but I didn't want to go because I wanted to study that day, so that way I could hang out with you at night. So they decided to go fly in my dad's plane, and it crashed, and they're dead.
I mean, it's really Kevin's fault.
I was going to say, essentially, she's saying, it's your fault my parents are dead.
Yeah, that's why I want to move to Jersey.
Because you killed my parents. That's what I thought. I was like, Kevin, you should feel like shit right now.
And so as they're leaving the cemetery, because I guess her berating Kevin in front of her parents' grave was enough of a goodbye, they come across the cosmic key.
Yeah.
In just like a crater in the ground. And Kevin knows exactly what this thing is. It's a Japanese synthesizer that fell from the sky. Because he's smart.
He's a musician.
Yeah.
And so they decide to just fucking take it with them. Because in the 80s, for all we know, this could be some kind of a Soviet bomb that did not go off. But Kevin knows it's Japanese and it's a synthesizer because it goes wow, wow, wow.
Listen to those funky tones.
So they leave and they go to the high school where they have set up the gym for the Around the World Fantasy Dance.
Good pull. I didn't notice that one.
Because Enchantment Under the Sea was taken.
Yeah.
They had an Eiffel Tower. They had a Leaning Tower of Pizza.
Yeah, they had the Pyramid of Giza.
Oh, yeah.
So he's doing his sound check, and then he decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this thing that I think might be a synthesizer, but now apparently I think isn't, and I'm going to go down to Charlie's music shop and see what he knows. And she's like, well, I'm going to hang out here and just say goodbye to the high school. It's like, all right, cool. You be depressed. I'll be back later.
I'll be right back.
And he makes sure to let her know, like, don't let anybody but Carl touch our stuff. Who's Carl? Turns out Carl's the janitor. Carl's the janitor that still wears his fucking Letterman jacket.
And he's in the school at like 7 p.m. at night for some reason.
He is just hanging out in the school by himself.
What was he
Carl
doing in that room? Yeah.
There's a dance about to happen.
Yeah, he's going to sweep
No, it's
up.
the next day.
Yeah, apparently not, because it's already dark out and nobody's here.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
unless this dance is at midnight.
The night before, yeah.
Oh, shit.
At which point, Skeletor gets a reading on the key because Kevin keeps fucking with it. And he's like, all right, I'm going to send mercenaries out to go get it. And they include Beastman and 3 others I don't remember. Oh, Blade, and then 2 others I don't remember.
You got Saurod.
Yes.
Saurod, who was, if you remember the comics and the cartoon, he's like...
Which I don't.
He's the like the Snake Men were a theme.
He was like
back
the
to that
reptile,
point.
yeah, like the reptile looking one.
And he actually looked pretty cool. I think the
It was
design
a
on that was pretty
surprisingly
badass.
good prosthetics for this movie.
And if you read again, when you read about it, like they put a lot of effort into that costume. Yet Karg,
has the worst fucking white hair
who lasts a lot longer, and he looks. They modeled him after a bat, but they gave him Tina Turner's Return to Thunderdome haircut.
Oh
like
my god, what is with that hair?
Now, here's what I have to say. Karg's a he?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good point.
I guess it could be a female. I don't know.
Well, he's got a hook.
And only men can have hooks?
Well,
no, I'm just saying that. I don't know.
I remember Beastman. Was
very hard to masturbate.
Blade and Saurod and Karg were from the cartoons also? I don't remember them.
No, Saurod and Karg were not. But
they
again,
were not.
Saurod seems like, again, they tried to make a Snake Men.
Right. Okay.
It feels like they were making a reference to Snake Mountain, I guess.
Well, there was a character called King Hiss, and he had a whole like race of snake people that followed him in the comic. In the cartoon.
Yeah.
All right.
So again, it was to me it hit home a little bit, but
Beastman was cool.
He was interesting, but then like Skeletor blows him up for some reason.
Oh, well, we haven't gotten there. How dare you?
I wish we had a trap jaw or something, but all right, make up some fucking.
I'm telling you now. The fact that we don't have man-e faces, disappointed.
Exactly. No man-e faces, no trap jaws.
Man-e faces was a good guy.
Good or bad? Not there.
Yeah.
Disappointed.
But there was so many cool characters they could have pulled from to make.
Triclops?
Triclops was amazing. And again, all that would have been was a green thing around somebody's head. You wouldn't have needed a very big
You could have saved money on the budget and maybe had an actual ending.
Wasn't there a dude named Ramrod? Was it Ramrod?
Ramman.
Ramman. Should have been Ramrod.
Which is a great name.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ramman. Rammy.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Anyway, I
love these because they're so obviously cobbled together.
Yes.
But there are so many characters they could have pulled from, but for some reason they just made up some out of nowhere.
Some new shit.
And it's not like they were easy characters either. Like that Karg guy took a huge amount of prosthetics to make. You know, like Trapjaw would have just been a plastic piece glued to somebody's face.
Dude, the one thing that bothered me about the prosthetics, I will say, is like the lips there was a little too much around Gwildor and Karg and Skeletor. Like their mouths weren't closing on words where your lip's supposed to close. It was a little distracting.
The big problem, Imran, is that when you're running on a Canon film budget, you're not exactly hiring ILM.
No, you're not. Aside from that, it was kind of impressive. Okay, back to the plot.
So, these mercenaries have been hired by Skeletor to travel to Earth and find the key. They travel to Earth through a portal. They all jump through sideways because that was just the weirdest moment. When they're all appearing in the hallway sideways walking.
Step over this thing.
Just like a fucking jazz troupe.
That's exactly what it is.
Bob Fosse jazz hands coming through this portal.
Yeah.
They do the moment.
Weird.
They do the moment when they land, where they look around to both sides and then move off to the side.
Exactly.
It's the beauty. It's so campy. It's beautiful.
Like somebody told them, like they were just in front of a green screen, and someone told them, "Okay, you just came through a portal and you don't know where you are." So every one of them did the whole land on the ground, left, right, and run.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so fucking campy. It's kind of great.
And they are in the high school, at which point they come across Carl the janitor, and they beat the shit out of him.
They fuck him right up.
It's so bad that they throw him through a door, and he flies like 25 feet into the room. And they then chase after Courtney Cox, Julie.
Yeah.
And they blow up the entire dance to the point where it lights the high school on fire.
I felt bad for Kevin's instruments. He told her, don't let anyone in but Carl.
Oh, no, Carl came in.
Yeah, he did.
My favorite part about that is right as they enter the room, the one guy says, "Take him alive." And then right away, the one guy fires a laser gun at her.
Yes.
And then the next guy tries to impale her with two swords, like within seconds.
Well, what I also love is that one of, I think it is Karg yells like, "Take her alive. She might know where the key is."
Yes.
At which point, as she's trying to get away, she just keeps screaming, "Get out of here! Oh, leave me alone!"
Like, that's gonna work.
It's like, I'm sorry, but you don't seem to recognize the severity of the fact that monsters
alien monsters
just showed up in your high school.
They're blowing shit up.
And they just threw a half-dead Carl through the door. Like, he landed on the floor in front of her, too. Like, anyway,
firing laser guns.
I love Karg. The guy who played Karg's overacting, where he's just like pointing, get her, find her, stop her. Yeah, like, and he's just overacting with his point.
And he has to move his head the whole time because the mouth doesn't move.
No, it doesn't move at all. The lips don't move at all.
So she goes escaping out the back of the high school into an alleyway, or like, I don't know. Was it into like an industrial park or something?
Yeah. I don't. There was a fence.
It was in a warehouse.
I watched this bit.
Yeah.
On like my lunch break at work today. So I'm sitting outside in a park trying to watch this shit. It's a nighttime scene.
Yes.
The sun is out. My phone can't focus on anything.
Now, given that they're like in, I forget what little suburb they're supposed to be in, but yeah, it's a very odd transition from the gym of a high school into
like
suddenly
a fenced-in storage area,
industrial area.
Yeah.
It essentially feels like it's the town that all of the trauma films take place in.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just every other like block is just another toxic waste dump.
There's like neon and smoke and shit. It's great.
So she goes running off into here and she's hiding and they're about to find her until He-Man finds her first. Thank you. And he and his rogue band of merry mischief makers beat the shit out of them. And he kills a bunch of robots with his sword, and they shoot a bunch of blue lasers at their red lasers, and they win. And the Beast Man gets beat up a little bit, and he goes running off, and they're all crying, and they leave. And so he's talking to Julie, who's having a well-due panic attack at this point. Basically tried to explain to her, like, I'm He-Man. I'm here to help. We're the good guys. That's the best I could do at a Dolph Lundgren.
Not bad.
And so we then follow Kevin as he goes to Charlie's music shop, and he walks in with this cosmic key thing and goes up to Charlie, the owner. And he's like, "Charlie, you ever seen one of these things before?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, man, it's Japanese." And Kevin goes, "No, it ain't." He goes, "Yeah, man, it's like some kind of synthesizer." Kevin's like, "No, it's not." It's like, "Kevin, that's exactly what you said it was.
You just said it was.
After you found it in a crater and said it fell from the sky. So don't act like you know more than Charlie, you piece of shit. You came here to talk to him."
Fucking Kevin.
So at which point he's like, "Well, I don't know, Charlie. If you've seen one, you've seen a million. I guess I'll leave." Why did you come here? Are you haggling with him? I don't get what's happening.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't even pick up on that, but yeah, he takes it to him for his expert opinion, then shits on him.
And then he shits on him for it.
He realized he doesn't know anything else, so he's like, "Fuck, I'm gonna leave."
Also, the friend that runs the shop is like the same age as him, and you know, like there's
he looks way older.
Yeah, it's the friend that runs the shop is apparently like the same age as him, but owns this place.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, how does that work?
And also looks like he's 40 and really into Buddy Holly.
Yeah,
that's true.
So, and then apparently the police and the fire department are rushing off to the high school, and it just so happens that Charlie has a police radio in his music store. For a while, I thought this was a pawn shop because of this scene, but it turns out it's just a music store. And they listen to the radio, and it's like, there's been arson and vandalism at the high school. And Kevin's like, oh my God, my girlfriend is there.
No shit, Kevin.
He goes running back to the high school, where we get a crane shot that brings us down into the burning building.
Wow, crane shot in this. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. Just one.
Yeah, I think that was all
they only got one try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At which point, he sees them, like, rolling Carl out, and he's on a stretcher. He is wrapped in gauze like it's an anime.
He's fucked up, yeah.
And he's like, Carl, what happened in there? And he legitimately responds with, you don't never want to know. That's double negative, Carl. Obviously, I want to know. So he gets rolled away, and then he starts, like, yelling at the cops and comes across Detective Principal Strickland.
Yeah, Lubick. Detective Lubick's the best.
It's probably one of the best parts of this entire movie.
He's such like a 80s trope.
James Tolkien. Yeah.
No, he is rocking his best like Dr. Loomis like / detective whatever. But he's like, you know, what are you doing here, kid? What are you doing here? What do you know about it? What's going on here? He's like, I don't know, man. My girlfriend was in there. Oh yeah, what does she look like? You know what? Let's go to her house. And they leave.
But he treats him like such a piece of shit, considering the fact that his girlfriend may have just been killed.
Well, and I think the worst part, the whole joke of it is it's supposed to be like, I think this kid committed the arson, and I don't think his girlfriend is real, so I'm going to give him crap. And instead of like arresting him and questioning him, we're going to go to his girlfriend's house. And so they do. And as he gets to Julie's house and apparently can just let himself in, the phone rings, and it's Julie calling her own house where no one else lives because her parents are dead.
So weird.
It rings the second he walks in the door. The phone like starts going. Right?
And
like
just hopes Kevin is gonna be there because no one else is gonna be there. Why did you call your own house?
That is weird.
Did you think your parents were going to answer?
I call myself and leave a message.
I was just going to say, like, she's going to call her own house and be like, Julie, it's Julie. I think we did drugs and didn't know it. So Julie's calling. And she's trying to talk to Kevin about what just happened. But Kevin's playing that game where it's like he's talking to somebody else because he doesn't want the cop to know he's talking to Julie for some reason. The girl who would actually be the alibi that he has for the arson and vandalism at his high school. But instead, he decides to be cagey as shit with him for no reason. He hangs up, and then he basically tells Detective Lubitz, Detective
Lubit?
Bald Guy.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we just hang out here, and then Julie will show up, and, like, we'll explain everything. And the cop's like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. That sounds like something I'm gonna do. So they're hanging out, and he's showing him the cosmic key, because he's like, I feel like whatever's going on here has something to do with this. And he goes, oh, yeah. He's like, what is it? It's like, well, it's a synthesizer. Oh, yeah? Yeah, just press those keys. And he does, and it makes sounds. And suddenly, he's like a fucking kid in a candy store. It's like, oh my God, this thing is so cool. And then he does it like 2 more times, and it plays like dissonant chords. And immediately, he then looks at me and goes, hey, this ain't no synthesizer. Oh, yeah? I want to know what your detective skills picked up that told you otherwise.
Lubick has perfect pitch.
It's Russian. It's Russian.
It's Russian.
So, now that the initial mercenaries have failed Skeletor, they have returned to beg forgiveness. But Skeletor is not about forgiveness, motherfucker. He's about results. And so he murders Snake Man.
Yeah.
Because, fuck you.
This is the thing I can't get over because he like lifts up his hand and it fires like a red bolt and he just like
He melts.
Disintegrates.
Yeah, he just disintegrates.
And he never does it again.
It's force lightning. It's pure force lightning.
Oh my God,
it
it is force lightning. And if you could do that, why wouldn't you just fucking do that to He-Man and everyone else?
No, it's total D&D rules. He can only do it once a day, and then he has to sleep for 8 hours.
He got the roll. Yeah, he got the proper roll on the dice there.
But they vaporized one of the more interesting characters, just like, Slipknot was such an interesting character.
Yeah, and they kill him right away.
So at which point, they then, Evil Lynn was like, well, it would be a shame to kill all of them. We could use their talents. Probably should have said that before he killed any of them. And he goes, well, great. If you're so interested in them being the ones to get the key, you're going to go and lead them. And she's all like, well, wait a minute. Why would I do that? And he's like, because you opened your fucking mouth.
Pretty much.
I got to tell you, man, I fucking love Skeletor in this movie.
Skeletor is so great.
This is the greatest Skeletor.
Yeah. He's way better than the cartoon Skeletor.
That scene was pretty cool, though. Honestly, in terms of his malevolence and shit like that.
If you're going to be an evil fucking dictator, that's how you do it.
Yep.
So he sends them off. They go to Earth, and Evil Lynn is using a tracking device to find the key. But apparently, there's some kind of interference with the key, and we can't lock onto it. Little do we know that Kevin's heating up another bucket of chicken in a microwave over at Julie's place.
Yes,
Again, making me believe this must have been a Kentucky Fried Chicken ad at some point, given the product placement,
so
right?
Badly.
And it turns out microwaves do not exist on Eternia.
No, they're bad. They're bad for Eternians.
And I don't mean like microwave ovens. I mean microwaves the frequency.
Yes.
Because they're looking at their scanner and they're like, it's some kind of unknown jamming. We've never seen anything like this. So she goes, well, destroy it. Well, apparently for not knowing what microwaves are, they're very good at like recalibrating things to attack them because the microwave explodes in the kitchen. Now, if I was the police detective, I was called out to an arson that happened at the high school.
Yes.
This punk-ass teenager showed up yelling and screaming about it, saying, what's going on here? And I would think, this is probably the douchebag that did it coming back to, like, revel in what he did. And then you decide you're going to call him on his bluff about his girlfriend being in there by going to her house, which he apparently lets you in. You don't know that this is her house. You don't know where the hell you might actually be. And then suddenly he blows up a microwave.
Yes.
I would have shot this kid. Because at this point, I think he's a goddamn terrorist. So he decides, that's it. I've had enough of this shit. I'm taking your weird fucking Russian bomb synthesizer and I'm leaving because I'm going to go to the police department. I'm going to put it in our computer and I'm going to see if anybody has put in a missing item report or something.
It may be stolen. He doesn't know.
Yeah, somebody's reported it's stolen.
Lubik's on the case.
In 1987, I would have loved to have seen what the fuck he would have put into that computer.
Yeah, well, how are you describing this?
And that's the thing, is like, he makes it sound like he's going to literally put it in the computer.
Like, how do you even describe that thing?
Yeah.
You know,
weird metal claw with keys that plays music.
Well, there was a scene with He-Man earlier in the movie where he's like, it's about this big, it's got lights on it.
It's about this large,
bright,
got lights on it.
And she's like, I know that thing.
She's like, yeah, I know that thing. He's like, yeah, it looks like a dildo from hell.
Yeah, exactly. It could have been a multicolored dildo, but honestly, my first thought was like, computers were not that advanced at that point. There's no way in fucking hell he's
this was still dot matrix, buddy.
Yeah, this was,
You had to go through DOS to get to this shit.
It's a black screen, green type. That's all you had.
So he takes off with it. Apparently to go to Charlie's to ask Charlie, hey, do you know what this thing is?
He went back to Charlie's.
Because Charlie is the smartest man in town.
Apparently, the only guy who could do anything. Everybody goes to help to Charlie.
So after they blow up the microwave, Evil Lynn says, hey, we have a lock on the key. We can track it from the air. And they get in their weird, like, Jabba the Hutt slave barge.
Yeah, I love those barges.
And go flying off, where they then track it to Julie's house. And they get there after the cop leaves with it, and they find Kevin. And as they burst through the doors into the house, Kevin's reaction is to throw a towel at Beastman, yelling, get out of here!
Yeah, that was really
How does
lame.
Kevin not immediately shit his pants, is my question.
Well, yeah, that shit was scary. Like, Beastman came in hardcore.
They were throwing him around against the wall.
He wolfmaned his ass into the goddamn house.
Yeah.
Well, and also, not for nothing, but like they're looking for information, but yet again, Beastman's about to kill him.
Yeah.
So Beastman knocks the shit out of him, breaking Kevin's nose. Like, he definitely broke his nose. There's that much blood.
Yeah.
And then he's just sitting there in the kitchen, and they lock a fucking synth collar onto him.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now that this is on you, you're going to answer everything we want, because it's apparently Veritor serum.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Harry Potter reference. Anyone my age gets that.
Okay. Geek boner.
Yeah, I had a flashback to like the mutant inhibition colors from like X-Men and stuff.
Yeah, it's also a very good image to it. So she then asks Kevin, where is the key? He's like, not here. The policeman took it. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let's get in the ship. We could track it from the air. You already said you could do that. And it brought you here where it's not anymore. So apparently you can't track it for shit. And so they leave. And by the time they leave, just after that, He-Man, his crew, and Julie show up in the car that Gwildor stole. And apparently then souped up with Eternia technology, so it doesn't have to run on a combustion engine.
Yeah, no hydrocarbons.
That's right.
Eternia
hydrocarbons.
is entirely vegan and also fully green energy.
A bunch of new age tree huggers fucking
I like that aspect of it.
It is the most socialist left planet I have ever heard of in my life. And I love it.
Yeah.
Women are fully dressed and the men are half naked.
Yeah, it's opposite. That's true.
So back on Cuck Planet. No, I'm sorry. So they get to that.
Let's not get political.
No, I'm kidding. They get back to the gang gets to Julie's house to find it ransacked. Oh, by the way, not only did they torture Kevin, they also went searching through the house and found like pictures of Julie's family and you know whatever. Just whatever. They get to the house, they find Kevin, they take the collar off him, and he's all like, oh my god, everything here is so weird. This dude's like naked, and I got beat up by a dog guy. And they're like, Kevin, shut up! We don't have time to explain anything. And he's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
You definitely want some explanation as to what the fuck is going on.
Nope. I'll trust you guys. What are we doing now?
So at which point they're like, well, we have to find the cop with the key because we need that key to get back to our planet. And he goes, yes, I fully follow what you're saying. We got to go to Charlie's.
I'm on board.
Exactly. And again, he was going to the police station last time we'd heard.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, he's like, he's probably going to Charlie's because Charlie would know about it. You know, Charlie
knows everything.
The fucking, like, overlord of our town. So, the only store in this suburb.
Yeah.
So, they then cut, and it's the cop at Charlie's being like, you ever see anything like this before, Charlie? He's like, no. He goes, you think it might be Russian? He goes, I don't know. And then suddenly... besides the fact that apparently Evil Lynn and her gang was tracking this thing from the air and got a head start, He-Man and the gang get there first.
They do get there first, don't they? Wow.
Well, they have Gwildor's rocket-powered neutrino car.
And they have the psychic abilities of Kevin, who knows where the cop's going despite him saying different. And so they get there, and they basically walk in and are like, we need that thing. And the cop's like, no, you know what? I'm going to pull my gun now.
Yes.
I'm finally going to pull my gun because there's a half-naked dude who's like 6'8", and I am not okay with that because it's the 80s.
The sword is literally the size of Lubick that's strapped to his back.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
so they get there, they're like, well, we don't have time for you, little cop guy. We just need the key and we'll leave. And then Evil Lynn and her forces show up, and they're like, okay, you guys all go through the front and attack, and I might do something else. Bye. And so, realizing that the Skeletor forces are there, He-Man and Man-at-Arms build an entire barricade out of synthesizers
and amps
and amp cabinets.
Yep.
And they are just waiting. And now it's like fucking Saving Private Ryan in this bitch. Because they take the rest of them into the back room and they're holding them there. And Tila is looking after all of them while Gwildor Gwildor?
Gwildor, yeah.
Yes, while he is attempting to reset the key and take them back to Eternia. But he doesn't know how long it'll take because apparently he didn't invent this thing.
Did you find the way that Tila shot her gun disturbing?
How she pinned it like right in the middle of her chest and held it with both hands on either side.
Up front. Yeah.
It looks like she was praying and holding a gun and then shooting it.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, He-Man never had a gun. Did that bother anyone else? Did He-Man shoot?
No, that doesn't bother me.
He never shot things in the cartoon. I'm like, oh,
it's the 80s, man. He's got to compete with Rambo.
Yeah, it's true.
No, that didn't bother me.
So now he's got laser guns and the sword. Yeah. And the sword is apparently able to block lasers.
As it should.
I mean, right?
And redirect him and bounce him back and blow up the stormtroopers.
It turns him into always He-Man.
Yeah.
The power of Grayskull is that he's never Prince Adam.
He's just drier after it.
I was going to say, it's when he doesn't have it, like, he sweats.
He's not sweaty. He's just greased.
He's just oily.
No. We'll get to it later on when he finally is sweaty.
Oh, he's sweaty.
So the big fight happens, and He-Man and Man-at-Arms are keeping them at bay. Meanwhile, Lubick. Thank you. I'm never gonna get it right. I told you. Lubick is in the back being like, this is crazy. Don't you guys get that this is crazy? And it's like, yeah, man, but like we're kind of dick deep in the shit right now. Maybe we could freak out later.
And you're standing beside an alien dwarf dude wearing like a Hawaiian shirt and shit. Like, no.
Man-at-Arms is hungry too.
We're kind of 45 minutes past crazy right now, man. Yeah. Okay. At which point he's like, okay, I have an idea. And he like looks at Teela. He's like, I feel like your friends could probably use your help out there, huh? At which point she's like, yeah, no, I guess, whatever, cool. And she hands the cop's gun to Kevin. It's like, now, Kevin, you make sure nothing bad happens back here. He's like, no problem, I'm not incompetent.
Yeah, be sure to shoot and kill this guy if he gets off.
Shoot the policeman.
Kevin, if it feels like something's going wrong, murder a cop.
It's already like assault and obstruction of justice and resisting arrest. A whole bunch of things he's done.
He's going to jail for life.
Oh, like, after this, sure. Absolutely.
So Teela runs out into the fray, kills like 9 guys in a row, looks dead into the camera, and says, "Woman at arms." At which point I threw up in my mouth.
It was one of the most cringeworthy moments of that entire.
Be more funny. I spent about 10 minutes going, God damn it.
Woman at arms.
If she would have done some like ninja shit, and then said that, it would have been fine. But she just literally stood up.
She just stood up and shot people. Like she stood up in the fray.
Yeah.
Awkwardly holding the gun.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't even look like she knows how to shoot the gun. She's holding it like with both hands directly in front of her.
But apparently, she is a fucking marksman.
Yeah, I guess that's how you have to hold the gun.
Yeah.
So in the back, now that Teela's gone, Lubick has decided to commit a mutiny, and he's going to beat the shit out of this teenager. And so he and Kevin get into a scuffle for the gun. Charlie's in the back just being like, oh, come on, guys, stop! Gwildorf is still screwing around with the key because he doesn't know how to work it. And Julie is like, I'm not going to pay attention to the assault that is happening on my boyfriend right now. I'm going to look longingly out the window. And oh my God, it's my dead mom in the alleyway behind Charlie's. Well, I did meet a whole bunch of aliens today, so this can't possibly be a trap.
That had crazy technology that I've never seen before.
And so she just sneaks out of the back of the room because everyone's too busy watching Kevin get beat up by an adult. And so she goes out, and her mom's like, hey, your dad and I are not dead. We were working on top secret stuff that had to do with what's going on right now. And in order for us to come back into your life and live with you, you have to get that key and give it to me. And Julie's like, that sounds like it makes absolutely all the sense in the world.
No problem.
Hey, no question. Nope. Like, there's just
not one question.
Me today that there's fucking aliens on your planet that are fighting over the things. You're seeing shit you've never seen before. You see it do that? It's like half fucking wolf.
You got it, formerly dead mom. Whatever you need.
She runs back in, and as she walks in, Lubick wrestles the gun away from Kevin and is like, all right, now I'm going to fucking arrest all of you because this makes no sense. And she's like, okay. And she picks up the key and runs out the back door. And Kevin's like, oh my God, Julie, what are you doing? So she runs out, she hands the key to her dead mom, who turns out to be Evil Lynn in disguise, and she runs off with it. And suddenly, Julie starts screaming like this couldn't possibly have been what was going on.
It's not quite the Wilhelm scream, but it's pretty close. Right?
Oh no,
like
it's
that.
straight up like slasher movie screaming. Like she just got stabbed. And so, after this, all of them come running out into the alleyway, He-Man and the rest of them, and firing, and it's another gunfight, and there's explosions. And when they catch up with Julie, she goes, she took the key. No, bitch, you gave it to her.
That's what I said instantly. I was like, you fucking gave her the key. What do you mean she took it?
And so now that Evil Lynn has the key, she sends out a coordinates to Skeletor, who shows up on the planet with a whole bunch more robots and a green goblin army.
Yeah, and then the funny thing about this part is like he's on one of those gigantic skiffs.
Yeah.
And then they cut to a shot of him, like coming down the street. And it looks like the saddest parade ever. Like that no one's out there watching him.
It's so slow moving,
Yeah,
and
he's
just like so upsetting. Like you really probably should have picked a better way to do this.
Also, whatever CGI budget they had, they blew their load on this scene completely.
Oh yeah. Now the thing that I don't get is why did Skeletor have to come planet side to get the keys?
No reason.
They've been jumping back and forth between Earth and Eternia the whole movie.
Yeah.
The moment they got this second key, they could have fucked off to Eternia and that would have been it.
I like to think it's probably because the director recognized at this point that Skeletor was the most interesting and coolest part of this movie.
Well,
we need to put him in more of it.
For some reason, they're still like, well, we need to get He-Man. And so Skeletor's like, I'm going to show up and do that myself by not doing a goddamn thing while I'm
by
there.
sitting here telling people to do things.
And so we got this whole big action scene where they're getting into fights with robots, and he's cutting them down with his sword, and he steals a glider from one of the Goblin Army, and now he's gliding around this town, fighting off other aliens. And then meanwhile, the rest of them are just hiding on a roof.
Can I just say the glider, Adam Morris, laws of inertia don't apply to this glider. Well, how he would have just fallen off the fucking glider. There was nothing holding him on. I don't understand how the glider worked.
Yeah, there doesn't appear to be any footholds or magnets or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, science is not really a...
In Eternia, you just have to want to be on something.
Yes,
and then you'll stay on.
Yeah, it's called Peter Pan technology.
Yes.
But my favorite part about that scene where He-Man is, again, on this hoverboard, cutting down these people is... They didn't have the budget to do it. So 90% of it is zoomed in on Dolph Lundgren's face.
Yep, top up, half body
while he's
up.
like grimacing and swinging the sword, and then you cut to a little scene of somebody falling off their hoverboard. Like there's no...
It is a close-up on Lundgren standing in front of a screen that is playing video of a road going by behind him, like old school movies did when they were driving. And then a fan just making his hair waft a bit while he squints and hunches forward more to go faster.
If his hair was shorter, they could have just cut in the scenes from Rocky IV where he was grimacing and punching Rocky.
Yeah. Exactly.
It would be almost the exact same thing.
He would have been just as sweaty.
Yeah.
And so Skeletor finds the rest of the group, at which point they are surrounded by the stealthiest of stormtroopers, who somehow all wound up on the roof behind them, despite all being in heavy plastic armor that clacks when they move. So, like, I don't know how they snuck up on them. Because every other time you've ever seen them, it's this chunk, 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 chunk sound whenever they go running.
Well, and Skeletor is riding a giant skiff that is glowing bright red.
And has, like, a weird, like, warbling, like, sound the whole time.
And when you see that scene, Man-at-Arms is looking over the edge of the rooftop. Like, he's keeping watch. He turns around for half a second, and then they all show up.
It looks like nobody's on this one side of this building. So he has them basically all held hostage, and He-Man shows up, and he tells him, like, hey, give up your sword and stop fighting, or I'll kill all your friends. He's like, well, okay, I will.
Sure.
They're like, don't do that, He-Man. He's like, what choice do I have?
Well done.
At which point, because he's Skeletor, he fucking force lightnings Courtney Cox because she was being lippy or something.
I think no, actually, he force lightninged He-Man's like hoverboard skiff as he was coming in for the rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And when he lightning that, he got her leg in like the crossfire.
Okay,
that was not the point, but like that, and that's when He-Man bails, and then he confronts him with the ultimatum kind of thing. But
perfectly fun. Like I said, I watched it today. I don't remember. So the thing that we learned later on that I have to talk about now because I can't grasp this concept is that apparently Skeletor's force lightning has an infectious disease in it.
It gives you leprosy or something?
That just spreads through your body and kills you.
When they show that infection later, it's like the most disgusting, but yet cartoony.
It is gangrenous.
Dude,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
nasty. Like that was one of the scenes I clearly remember from when the first time I watched this as a kid. I remember how nasty her fucking leg was.
It's like he hit you with lightning and now you've got trench boot.
Yes.
Yeah. She's got super gonorrhea from the force lightning.
Cut that leg off before it spreads. Jesus Christ.
So he takes He-Man and his sword and they all make their way back to Eternia before breaking the cosmic key so that the rest of them can't follow somehow.
Again, it got caught in the crossfire of the because He-Man had it with him.
Yeah.
Well, what I find weird about it, though...
While he was flying in, it got caught in like the crossfire, so it impeded only the tone of the cosmic key.
I was going to say, what I find so weird about it is it gets caught in the crossfire almost like randomly.
Oh, absolutely.
But then when they're trying to use it, Gwildor is like, oh, it erased the memory that had the coordinates to get back to Eternia. Skeletor knew what he was doing. It's like, how?
So it's willful force lightning.
It's
as
like
well.
it's like yeah, it's like at which point it means like he outright was like, I'm gonna give that fucking Earth girl like leg herpes.
Yes, he did.
Ding, ding, ding.
So we go back to Eternia where now Skeletor has the sword. By the way, there's 10 minutes left in this movie.
Yeah, when is this final battle gonna happen?
We go back to Eternia where now Skeletor has the sword. And he is placing it into this weird LED light sheath on the throne in Eternia, in Castle Grayskull, which opens the eye of the universe. And now he's going to gain the powers of a god in front of all of Eternia on their giant hologram television.
But there's only like 4 guys watching.
Yeah. Well, it's look, they were at war, man. Okay.
Yeah, but I have to say, I enjoy the fact that they did do the random projections where you can see them anywhere.
Yeah.
That shoots back to the comic or the cartoon rather, where either He-Man or Skeletor at any given point in time
just show up in the air.
Skeletor would be like, I wonder what He-Man's doing, and then he'd look at his monitor, and then it would show He-Man in like a swamp, like walking through a swamp, and it was like, where the fuck is that?
Yeah,
where's the camera?
I don't get how this technology works.
Yes.
But I did enjoy, honestly, as a kid and as an adult, I kind of enjoyed the fact that they at least called back to that a bit, where Skeletor can just project himself anywhere. But anyway, it's still super ridiculous.
So he is demanding that He-Man kneel before Zod, to show that he is the true ruler of Eternia. But He-Man will never kneel to you. So they hit him with a laser whip.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, this is one of my favorite moments in this movie.
Laser whip is amazing.
Not only do I love the rotoscoping of the laser whip,
yes,
I love the fucking acting that Dolph Lundgren tries to do to pretend like he's getting whipped.
You could see in his face, he's like, wait, did it hit me now?
He's just like undulating his torso a whole bunch, and every now and then he cringes, and it's like, it didn't even touch you yet, man.
No, and he looks back, and it's not timed at all well.
Yeah.
So as somebody who's watched this movie too many times as well, if you look at the guy, Blade, who's manning the whip, his expressions do not also match what is happening at all. It's all just off kilter and off timing.
Was this like a legit Jesus Christ fucking allegory? Like, what are you doing here with this?
That's clearly what it is, I think.
Yeah, what it makes me think is you couldn't have somebody off camera who was being like, okay, and whip.
Yes.
And whip.
Now.
Well, it's like,
Well, when we get into the breakdown, we'll understand why, right? The scene was.
Oh yeah.
My favorite part of this whipping thing is like when they secured the whip, him to like the gauntlets on him so he can't move. Like you can actually see like whatever they tie it to is like it's like plywood and it's moving.
Yeah. He's legitimately like pulling the floor up while he moves.
Flimsy.
And also, he's supposed to be the most powerful man in the universe, and they put some chains on his wrists. And
Well, he doesn't have his sword now.
Dude, in my head,
but again, clearly he doesn't need this. Again, what happens?
Exactly.
He doesn't need the sword to be his. Anyway, well, yeah, it's
in my head. I had the soundtrack from Jesus Christ Superstar, like the 39 lashes.
Oh man,
where it's like 1, dun, 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 2, 39 lashes.
But yeah, it was supposed to be an emotional, like, oh god, look at him. But it was just like a.
yes, we're at the moment where it's like, how is He-Man gonna get out of this? Well, apparently he will in 5 minutes.
This is going great.
Yeah.
So, back on Earth, Julie is dying of leg cancer.
Like herpes.
Leg
herpes.
Yeah, leg gonorrhea.
And Gwildor is trying to explain that they can't use the key anymore because he can't find the melody that was Eternia, because that's coordinates. Like, that's how that works. Because the universe is music.
Well, Kevin, the universe is music. We all have tones. Fucking Gwildor.
Imran, you could have done Gwildor's
You really could have.
I could do this.
It's
I could do
actually
it. It's really
almost
good.
spot the fuck on.
Are you a master musician, Kevin?
So
You're a tone master.
Yeah.
Tone master.
At which point? Oh no, it was a master music maker.
Okay.
Yes.
At which point Kevin's like, oh, I remember what the melody was because I'm most likely on the spectrum.
I'm kind of an idiot savant when it comes to the music, people.
And again, like at this point, if it was the most important tones or song in the universe, you would think the guy that invented the fucking thing would know the
song.
tones. At least be able to hum it.
They have to jerry rig a way to play the tone through the key. At which point Gwildor is like, I need 3 things, and he names 2 things that are very obviously just MacGuffin pieces of like whatever from his planet. Yeah. That both Man-at-Arms and Tila
they have the funniest
to be carrying.
Yes, and they have the funniest names too. One of them sounded really dirty too.
But what I love about it is it's the idea of I need these 3 things. Yeah. 2 of which are like 2 of which they just have on them, because apparently not only can they help me make music, but they're really, really useful in guerrilla warfare.
Yeah. Well, the universe is made out of music.
You know, the thing that stuck out from that scene to me is when he's telling him, "Oh, I know the song," and he's like repeating the song back to him. Yeah. And he's like, "Wow, you got talent. You're like one of those music makers." And he goes, "No, I'm not." And then he like thinks he can't do it anymore. All of a sudden, all of his confidence is gone from getting a compliment.
He's like, "You must be a master music maker." No, I just play in a high school band. It's like, dude, right now they think you're the greatest guy in the universe. Fucking roll with it.
Yeah, but again, it's just immediately just like,
and it throws back to what he was doing the sound check as well, because the synth noises he was playing before he even touched the cosmic key were exactly like in tone with what they needed, right? Like it's
because they only had one synth that they could play over this movie.
Absolutely.
So Kevin runs off back to Charlie's, because it's the only other building in town.
Fucking Charlie.
Because he needs to get a synthesizer so they can play this thing.
Or fucking Charlie. Like, goddamn it. Like, he just wants to run a music store.
Meanwhile, I didn't ask for any of this, you bastards. You blew up my store.
Lubick is running around with the shotgun he stole from Charlie's store.
Yes.
Pulling a group of cops with him because he thinks he's going to war with aliens, and everybody thinks he's insane.
Yeah, it's great.
Now, the thing that I love about Lubick is he doesn't understand how a shotgun works.
No.
This man racks that shotgun at least 3 times before he ever fires it.
I didn't notice that. That's a good point.
It's like so many shells he is just wasting. Kevin comes back with the synthesizer. They play the notes they have to. They're about to leave, but Lubick shows up screaming about, like, you're all under arrest! Yeah. I don't know what's going on here! And then they all get transported to Eternia, along with half of a car, half of a phone booth,
the whole alley,
of an entire bench, and most of the wall of the building behind them.
Great.
Which is convenient for cover when they get there.
At which point they land in the middle of the fucking throne room in Eternia with all this stuff. After Skeletor has gotten the power of the universe and has now upgraded to Golden Elephant Skeletor.
So I did not remember this part of this movie. I forgot that he wore gold lame in this fucking movie.
That little scene, though, again, as a kid at the time, that was pretty cool when suddenly Skeletor was this, like, golden god to me. You know what I mean? Like, it was... The costume is a bit ridiculous, obviously, but, like...
I didn't mind it.
But
I thought it was fine.
We're already this far, man.
The headdress was uncomfortable.
The moment when the great eye opens and suddenly he's, like, infused with the power again, they must have blown at least the other half of the CGI load on that moment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Dude, back to Lubick for a second, because... If I was Lubick at this point, when you were beamed into the throne room, I would just shoot my head off. I would be like, oh, you know what? Fuck this. But he has the best line.
You're not Lubick.
I'm not.
Because once they show up and the gunfight ensues, Lubick goes fucking ape shit.
That's my favorite.
Absolutely.
He's sitting line. There, a guy fires at him, he goes, nobody takes pot shots at Lubick.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite line in the whole fucking movie.
At which point,
me too.
He goes like Tila did before, he stands up away from any cover in the middle of a gunfight and just unloads that shotgun on everybody. And it fucking wins.
And this is a technical thing in the movie that's not technical, but like he shoots the one guy on the one side and then immediately turns around, but like there's a guy beside the dude that he just shot that just pointed the gun at him. Yeah. So if he turned around, that dude would have killed. Anyway,
it's like because it has to look cool, he has to fire in a different direction that's at least 45 degrees from where he was every time.
And he has like 20,000 shells in this shotgun, which
and he already like dispensed half of them on accident.
The stormtroopers have the worst.
He was busy looking cool.
Yeah. At best, one of those shotguns would have like 6 shots in it. You know what I mean?
Nobody takes pot shots at Lubick.
But it's a great line, and it's very
fucking love it.
So we finally get into our final battle as the ragtag resistance crew is fighting off the stormtrooper army of Skeletor. And He-Man.
Ooh, not Adam. There's no Adam in this movie.
There is no Adam in this movie.
Yeah.
No Adam. There's only He-Man.
I like to think he was still Prince Adam, to be honest.
He-Man breaks free from his binds, punches a few people, swings across onto the dais on a random curtain.
Wait, you missed though. His whole strategy was that to distract everybody, he pushed a pillar over.
Right.
Which took like 30 seconds of Dolph Lundgren going,
yes, of him flexing backwards.
And then he pushes the pillar over and it hits nobody.
Now, by the way, because he doesn't have his sword anymore, this is when he is sweaty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's pretty sweaty right now.
He makes his way up onto the dais, at which point he and Skeletor are having this back and forth of like, it's over, Skeletor, it's never over! So this is their final battle.
He picks up the sword and says, I have the power.
He lets him.
He goes to pick up the sword.
Yeah.
Skeletor is firing his now gold lightning at him because now he's a golden god.
Oh, yeah.
But He-Man just takes it.
But he waits until his hand is like on the sword before he starts doing anything. Again, He-Man just swung directly in front of him. Landed on the ground, had an exposition with him
the whole time that he is swinging across that like random chasm. It's like, dude, just get him in the air. Now and then he falls into the chasm, and you win.
Even just shoot the fucking curtain, he would fall in the hole.
So he pulls the sword out of the weird little like holster, yells, "I have the power!"
Yeah.
Which, by the way, makes no sense in this movie.
Not in this context.
The sword doesn't give him power. He's always He-Man.
Yeah.
And also, because of Lundgren's accent, it comes out as,
It does. And the thing that I noticed, because I had to rewind to make sure of it, is that he yells that out. It starts in a close-up, and then it cuts to the wide shot so they can get the glowing, effect behind him.
Yeah.
They use the voiceover from the close-up, and it doesn't sync to the wide shot.
Oh, no.
So now his mouth is moving, and he's not saying words anymore.
That's a big fuck up right there.
And also, again, as a fucking purist of this kind of shit, why not at least throw in the other part where it's like, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. Like, that's the entire phrase.
Just do the whole line if you're going to do it.
They chose not to for some fucking reason because they thought that was too weird in a movie that is so ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that was too much.
Yeah.
So now he and Skeletor have decided this will be their final battle. And a minute and 45 seconds later, it is over. They have a
what
battle.
happens is they cross swords and immediately they're in a disc attack.
I was gonna say they decide to start fighting. They cross sword to scepter, and suddenly all of the lights turn off except for one red light and a flashing white light in the background.
Yeah, he's in like Michael Jackson's video, "Rock with You," or whatever.
And so they're like, it's like clash, clash, clash. Close up of just Lundgren swinging his sword.
Yeah.
Clash, clash. More close-ups
of just his chest, even there's like close-ups of just his chest muscles as this is happening and shit.
At which point he breaks the scepter. Skeletor pulls out his own sword. They cross blades once, and then he basically like just monkey flips Skeletor into a bottomless pit.
It's kind of like Skeletor literally tripped over his own feet.
It's like, I'm going to show you, He-Man. No, you're not.
Whoa, you were right! Skeletor's falling and screaming, but his mouth's closed.
His mouth's closed. I was really hoping he was going to yell out, "What a world!"
I didn't notice
it is one of the worst falling effects, even for the 80s.
At least when the Emperor got thrown down the fucking reactor chute, like they sped it up so that you couldn't be like, "Oh wow, that looks bad." I was like, "Oh yeah, he's gone."
Yeah.
He was like falling for like a good 10 seconds.
Oh, absolutely. There was a good gap in there where you could be like, "That looks like shit." Oh my god!
Obviously, when it seemed like things were not going Skeletor's way, Evil Lyn and the rest of the mercenaries were like, "Well, fuck this game," and they walked.
Who did absolutely nothing during the entire battle?
Shit, that's a good. They just stood there.
I will say that's unheard of for Evil Lyn. Everybody else was a mercenary. They had every right to be like, it's not worth it.
I'm not getting paid for this. Fuck this shit. I'm out.
It's kind of, again, in the cartoons, like everybody was always looking to backstab Skeletor at any moment in time.
Yeah.
That kind of fit into that, but it didn't fit with the rest of the movie.
No, not at all.
At
that point in time, if you were just a cartoon fan, it made sense. Because they all don't give a shit about him. They just want power. But anyway, it was just...
So they're gone. Skeletor's dead. Eternia is saved. The sorceress is young again. Everybody's happy. Lubick apparently is going to be living on Eternia now.
My God, he found himself a hot Eternian broad. And he's just like, I'm going to stay here. That was great.
They gave him a toga and a hot girl.
For shooting and killing like 4 stormtroopers, he is rewarded the ability to live in Eternia, a planet he does not belong to. He is given a seat on the dais next to the sorceress.
Yeah.
He is given his own castle and a concubine.
I would stay too.
But no hamburgers.
No, you ain't gonna fight. You may have some good veggie burgers. Yeah. I would stay aside from the no hamburgers. I don't know.
And as Julie and Kevin are about to leave and they are saying good journey to everybody, or whatever it is, they're leaving through the portal and Julie turns back and goes, "Oh, wait a minute, Gwildor, send us back to a time before my parents are dead." Why do you think he has that ability?
He says it. He's like, I can send you back whenever.
Anywhere in space and time.
And she doesn't think about it at that point.
I missed that part because I thought to myself, all we've ever seen is him open up a portal that brings you to another place at exactly the same time.
He doesn't say that at that point, but earlier in the movie, it says something about it being like the music and the cosmic key can send you anywhere in space and time. So at that point, he doesn't say I can send you back to an earlier point, but it should be implied because of how well the plot of this movie is layered. You should understand that at that point, I guess.
Because of how many times we've realized that Julie is sad her parents are dead. So Gwildor sends them back to just before her parents were going to be getting on this plane and dying. So at which point she says, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to steal the keys to your plane. Just trust me. Bye," and leaves the house in her nightgown. Is just walking the streets of her neighborhood. At which point Kevin runs up and is like, "Julie, don't let your parents get on that plane." She's like, "Yeah, no, I know. I figured it. I have the keys, man." He's like, "Oh, wow. Yeah, cool. I guess all that really did happen then, because I've got this weird marble that when I look into it, I can see Grayskull and I see He-Man yelling, 'I have the power.'"
Again, By the power of Grayskull, like, give me that moment, for Christ's sake. But
also, what if her parents are on the phone calling a taxi and she's out here fucking around with Kevin?
That's the thing.
They're still gonna die.
I always took it as her stealing their car keys to get to the airport, not necessarily keys to the plane.
Yeah, apparently it was the keys to the plane.
Okay, because an airplane runs on an ignition key.
Yeah, yeah. You need the key to the plane.
Anyway, we're going.
And credits.
Wow, credits.
Talking nerd.
Well done, Delhauer. Yes.
But
wait, there's more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not mention that after the credits, we then have a moment where Skeletor emerges from what looks like
Pepto-Bismol.
like a lava pit, I guess, and just looks at the camera and goes, "I'll be back." And he never was.
The most comedic. That was the weirdest. I didn't even know there was a post-credit scene in this movie for a long time.
I was waiting for that sequel.
It's never going to happen, Adam Morris. Delhauer, fantastically, masterfully done.
Yeah, bravo, my friend.
We're going to take a quick break right here, play some promos, and come back and figure out what the fuck happened to Masters of the Universe.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Are you a fan of movies?
Or comics?
Or video games?
Or just anything else nerdy?
Well, you should check out the Zing This podcast. And that's spelled
ZENG.
This. And you can find us every Monday. And we have nerdy topics from comic book reviews to in-depth analysis of iconic nerdy movies, as well as video game discussions. Mm-hmm. Where's some of the best places to find us, Allie?
Well, Podbean, of course.
You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play.
Anywhere else you listen to your podcast. Yeah.
So check us out. Once again, that is
Zing This.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Robert.
We're hosts of the Two Bobs podcast.
Check out our show at thetwobobs.com.
We talk about beer, food, weird news,
some pop culture, sports, and our obsession with technology.
And just general BS with our own brand of comedy and sarcastic wit.
Also, be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Two Bobs Podcast.
Doc and Nerd.
Listener, check out our fan club. Don't just check it out. Join it. Sign up. Visit jockandnerd.com/Patreon, where you can help us support the show and you get bonus content and exclusive podcast feed just for our supporters. First of all, huge thank you to, of course, Delhauer and Adam for being continuing supporters and spreading the geekery. You guys have been awesome. We appreciate it so much. Spread the word. I got a shout out to Matthew Lawrence, listener, who just increased his Patreon pledge to the $10 You Pick It tier.
Talking nerd.
He now gets to pick a movie for us to review. He gets to force Anthony to watch whatever he wants.
By the way, I don't know if I know we did this once before. That does also mean he is allowed to pick a What the Fuck Happens.
That yes, you can, and people have. We have a What the Fuck Happens in the list of those. So, but he teased. I don't know if he was just joking on the Facebook group. He was like, "How about a movie that stars Wolverine, quote unquote MJ, and the Joker's former lover?" Does this ring a bell? Can anybody figure out what he's hinting at? I think I know.
I don't know who the Joker's former lover is.
Well,
I'm going to assume he means Harley, which is Margot Robbie.
Or you can also think who played the Joker before and who were they in a relationship with?
Jerry Hall?
No. Heath Ledger.
Oh.
Heath Ledger's former lover.
Oh, Michelle Williams?
Yes.
So Michelle Williams, Hugh Jackman, and quote unquote MJ.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming.
You talking about Brokeback Mountain?
No. Delhauer, what are you assuming? You're onto something.
I was going to say, quote unquote MJ, I can only assume.
Mary Jane Watson.
Well, no, I know that much. I can only assume that means potentially Shailene Woodley because she was supposed to play MJ.
You're thinking this way. You're overthinking this.
She would actually be a good Mary Jane. She was.
She was
She's
supposed
a redhead.
to.
She's cute.
All right, so then I'm going with Zendaya? Oh.
Can you figure out?
Oh, it's Greatest Showman.
Yeah, that's exactly the movie. It's the musical of P.T. Barnum. Matthew Lawrence, I don't know if you were being serious. If you are, that's fine. We'll review The Greatest Showman. I got no problem. It'll be great forcing Anthony to watch it. That's
which is
really
the thing I find really funny. The thing I find really funny about Greatest Showman is it's a movie that involves Zac Efron playing a trapeze artist. And there was a point where I said that if they wanted to bring Robin into the DC movies, I would not be against Zac Efron doing it.
He'd be a good Tim Drake.
Yeah,
he'd be a good Tim Drake. Yeah, or Dick Grayson. Yeah,
Nightwing. I pictured a lot bigger. Like Nightwing should be Batman size. Like
I see. Yeah, Tim Drake.
Maybe
Zac Efron's pretty little.
I was gonna say the thing is Efron has the body of a gymnast, and that would make sense. I think for Nightwing.
I honestly love Zac Efron. He's hilarious. He's
great in the Neighbors movies.
He's a pretty decent little actor.
He's one of those guys that makes me feel like you're not allowed to be funny because you're already hot.
Right, it's not fair.
He's way prettier than most people should be. Absolutely,
yeah, and he's really funny. So we may have to do the fucking movie, Greatest Showman. Another reason to join the fan club, though, there is a 5th episode of Jock Talk is now live with Anthony and Chaz talking more sports stuff. And finally, the biggest reason, listener, this is the 6th episode we've given you this month.
Oh shit!
Come on, talking nerd. Who's giving you 6 episodes a month when it's a weekly podcast? Sign up. Give us your hard-earned coins. You won't regret it. Back to He-Man. Delhauer, Morris, what the fuck happened?
Honestly, I want to give this over to Adam.
Alrighty.
Because Adam did a shit ton of research on this, and I would love for him to explain this movie.
Kick it off, Adam.
All right, well, I appreciate it, because, as we talked about beforehand, I've watched this movie. Honestly, I would say in my lifetime, I've probably seen this movie 30 to 40 times.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God.
Wow.
That's
How
amazing.
are you alive?
Because when I was a kid, again, when I watched the movie the first time, I remember it being such a disappointment.
Yeah.
But I convinced myself that it was good because I loved the characters and the storyline so much. You know what I mean? I still remember there were these toys called Constructs, and I built a cosmic cube out of it. There's a picture of me holding it.
Oh shit!
If I can find it, I will post it to the Jock and Nerd page at some point. But the top part even spun around.
Snap!
And it came out in a little flower kind of arrangement and stuff.
You goddamn nerd!
He's like, I'm going to Eternia.
So So I looked through this with very veiled eyes in a certain way. But again, so we'll start with the good things about the movie. I think you guys can get on board with this or not. But Dolph Lundgren, he could not act.
No.
The guy could barely speak English. He was still milking that Swedish accent kind of aspect. But he was a pretty picture perfect He-Man. You know what I mean? He was 6'4", ripped to hell. They put him in the cross armor, if you want to call it that.
In the bondage harness?
That cross thing that held his sword and then it had the little symbol in the middle. And he was wearing basically hot pants with some boots.
Lots of skin, yes.
Thankfully they didn't put him in the furry hot pants from the cartoon. But it was pretty close, and...
he wasn't a bad pick. Who else would have played him at that time? I don't know.
Again, Schwarzenegger, I guess.
It's already a Conan ripoff.
With a bad wig.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was anybody else really at the time. There was a lot of those beefy, massive dudes at the time, but
enough money, they probably could have gotten Stallone, but again, it would have just been the same fucking voice and just a wig.
And Stallone's also 5'8". There's no way that they could pull it off, right?
Yet he still made it look like he was able to go toe to toe with fucking Dolph Lundgren.
With Dolph,
however,
that's a good point.
One of the best scenes in Rocky IV, in my opinion, is when they come nose to nose, and that before they start punching each other.
Mm-hmm.
Before Drago literally punches Rocky in the face without him blocking 3,000 times, and Stallone's looking at his nipples essentially in that scene, and he looks up at him and it's just wow, holy fuck, So anyway, Dolph Lundgren was a great choice. However, as we'll get into in a minute, the idea was to overdub his lines.
Oh, later, really?
Completely. The director had that idea in his mind. However, they ran out of money, and somehow in Lundgren's contract, he worked in that he had 3 tries to record the vocals.
Oh, to ADR it later
before they had to hire somebody else.
So what do you think he had? He nailed it on the 3rd try.
I bet you they got all 3 tries in.
Yes.
I'd be willing to bet that it was the first shot because they ran out of money, right? Like it's. But anyway,
or they did everything the first time. They got like halfway through time 2.
Yeah,
and they were like, all right,
you know what,
we could only put about 50% of his lines from the 2nd try in. And that didn't even matter because he has very few lines in this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, he doesn't really talk that much.
I mean, and that was not the original plan. That was just the director being like, okay, this guy can't fucking speak English, and we need to cut this down.
Where's Langella?
Action. Julie,
but
do you know where the key is? Okay, that was great. Fucking
it's about this big. It's got flashy lights on it.
I love the fact that because he barely knew English, and like one of the first movies he did in America was Rocky, his American accent is Stallone.
That's actually a good fucking point.
He learned English from Stallone. That's the problem with the Dolph Lundgren.
Well, apparently Stallone did help like mentor him when he first came onto the action scene. Like he was part of his anyway edification in the movie. But the other things I think were good were Skeletor. Obviously, Frank Langella fucking leaned into that role.
No, I think he did a great job.
He was great.
Owned that shit.
And every scene that he was in, you literally felt like he was a malevolent character that was trying to harm somebody. Like he had that feeling about him. Evelyn, the lady that played her, I think she did a great job too. Although she had nothing to do.
Yeah,
that'll come up again when we get a little bit further on here. And the guy that played Blade, which even though he wasn't a comic book character or a cartoon character, he actually was kind of a cool villain. Unfortunately, again, apparently at some point he just fell into a pit. In that finale.
How did he die?
Yeah. He was fighting He-Man and somebody else, and I think he gets thrown, and he just kind of like slides across the floor into the bottomless pit.
Falls into the bottomless pit. So like the two
he got Boba
Fetted in the Sarlacc.
So the two major villains literally just fell into a hole. I guess to finish the movie. I like the fact that they didn't bother with the secret identity with Prince Adam and stuff, because in this movie there was no place for that. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I don't know how you would have worked that in this to the runtime.
It needs to be like multiple movies for you to work that kind of stuff into it.
We only got an hour and 20 minutes, guys. We got to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
But you, I mean, again, as you said, like there was only a minute of exposition at the start, right? Where they were like, okay, there's a bad guy, a good guy. There's a castle that has all this power, and blah blah blah. Go.
All right, so we're on another planet. It's an alien planet. There's a war going on. This guy's the good guy. That guy's the bad guy. But the bad guy won. He has the castle, and now we watch.
And none of it's interesting.
But I do think, again, the costumes for He-Man, Skeletor, a lot of the bad guys were amazing. Like they did a good job for the time.
One of my favorite little tidbits about Frank Langella playing Skeletor. The reason he took that role was because at the time he had a son who was like 4 or 5 years old and was a huge He-Man fan. And was like, just, I love He-Man and I love, Skeletor and everything. He was like, oh, well, they want me to play Skeletor. And the kid was like so excited. He goes, all right, I'm going to go be this villain so that my child will like it. And he fucking brought it.
And he was
great.
He still loves this role. He said it's still one of my favorite roles.
I would too.
Yeah.
This movie is a fucking dumpster fire, but god damn it if he's not watchable.
He had a great time.
I put this in the notes, but he quotes Richard III, like a Shakespearean.
Oh shit!
Point at one point where he's like, "I'm not in a forgiving vein." Right before he fucking zaps Sorod.
Oh shit!
That's a line. That's a line from Shakespeare because he
There's
played
a Shakespeare.
Because he played Richard III on stage.
Yeah, the line was just give us another chance, and he whips around and goes, "I am not in a giving mood today."
Yeah, it's so great.
And it's, you don't expect to see
honestly,
a fucking Shakespeare
that's the word I was
reference.
grasping for. he was Shakespearean.
And I mean, brought way more dimension than the Skeletor on the cartoon. Like, the one thing this movie does is fleshes out Skeletor really well.
He's not a bumbling jackass. He's just, I am not nice.
Yes. He-Man will be mine.
In the cartoon, everybody is always trying to fuck Skeletor over, and he doesn't realize it. In this one, he immediately realizes that Evil Lynn's trying to fuck him over, and it's like, yeah, fuck you. You're gonna go get into this. And
Skeletor is an idiot in the cartoon.
See, the thing is, this is my theory on why the cartoon was the way it was. I know we're going off topic, but I thought of it now. But the cartoon, the figures and all that stuff were so scary, or like, so dark and like. Almost satanic.
They had to laugh it up.
Oh, yeah, the cartoon had to like be ridiculously weird, so the parents wouldn't think it was like satanic or something.
Well, it was also still at the end of the comic code kind of authority kind of era where like they weren't allowed to kill people, they weren't allowed to do this, they weren't allowed to do that.
There had to be a moral in every fucking cartoon and shit.
So when you watch that He-Man cartoon, he never hits anybody with his sword.
Oh, really?
No, he's not allowed to. He can only punch or throw people. So he's not allowed. So the giant power sword that he uses to get his power,
never uses it.
He only uses it to deflect laser beams or hit
to become
vehicles.
He-Man. Yeah.
But that's it. Like he's not allowed to use it. So
actually, that went all the way off into like the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Because it's the reason why the G.I. Joes only ever shot lasers at each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the reason why they were allowed to use weapons in Thundercats because no one was a human.
Well, G.I. Joe the movie blew me away.
Yeah.
Because people actually died in that movie. You saw
with Transformers too.
You saw Cobra people dragging the dead people off the field and shit at one point in that G.I. Joe movie, and Duke dies.
They fucking killed Duke. That was crazy.
And it goes all the way up to the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie,
where they
would not let Michelangelo use his nunchucks.
He's using salamis.
Oh, really?
Because he has them. He never uses them once in the movie because they said, we don't want to give kids the idea it's okay to hit people with nunchucks.
What the fuck?
But he uses salamis as nunchucks in that movie. It's fucking ridiculous. It's anyway. But back to the good things again. So comic writer John Byrne, who's somebody we all should probably know, I would think. He's
absolutely.
Yeah.
He said The Master of the Universe was the best New Gods movie he's ever seen. And that blew me away because he was like, Skeletor is Darkseid, Gwildor is Metron. Like he elaborated the way that it was all connected, and the director at one point was like, "Wow, I'm glad." I'm glad somebody put it together. But honestly, I think it might have been one of those after the fact things.
No, it wasn't.
It makes sense.
Goddard actually went on record down the line. He wrote an opening to the Next Men.
Okay,
one of the books for that.
John Byrne's book.
He had said that when he made Masters of the Universe, I have actually the quote. He said, the storyline was greatly inspired by the classic Fantastic Four Doctor Doom epics, the New Gods, and a bit of Thor thrown in here and there.
Which makes a lot of sense. Like,
it makes a lot of sense.
Which means he made a movie based on 4 other comics that are not the comic he made the movie of.
And also stories in comics that were much better than the story that he told.
Yeah. The whole He-Man story is, them stealing shit from other places, but like that has potential to be a really powerful story there in those inspirations.
And even the opening of this movie, the first 15 minutes when I first started watching it, I said to myself, holy shit, am I actually going to like this movie?
Yeah.
Because it is Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
It is straight up just serial adventure, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Then we get to Earth.
Yeah, and it all falls apart.
That first 10 minutes. So again, I know, Rug Boy, you shot on the on that view of Castle Grayskull, like the rotoscope or whatever they did there. And again, it was a bit cheesy, but like that kind of overview where they panned over to Castle Grayskull and you see over the sorceress's shoulder and she's looking out. Like, to me, that was like, oh my God, they're going to do it. Like, they got this. This is amazing. And you could see the lightning in the background, and like it was going to be this badass, like epic kind of movie. And then it just cuts into Skeletor in the throne room, and that's a pretty good scene. But one of the best scenes in the movie is where he comes in and he's like, giving his exposition and like, I'm going to take down He-Man, blah, blah, blah. And exactly, as soon as you jump into Earth,
Skeletor is like a dark side. He would be a cool dark side. This fucking Skeletor.
I think that the most important, most interesting things about He-Man and Eternia and everything, like it just made it a movie that was like a by the numbers movie. Like we have this thing, everybody needs this thing, and then we need to get this thing, and then we get it. There wasn't all the stuff. I mean, that's in every movie. Like a MacGuffin chase.
That's Ant-Man and the Wasp is the same fucking movie.
It's like every movie. So the thing that He-Man and Masters of the Universe really has there is some of that mythology and building the mystery of Castle Grayskull, and the sorcery and all that stuff. So I feel like, when I watch this movie, I feel like a huge disappointment in that wasn't explored at all. And
of course.
So,
and that all boils down to being in the 80s. It is the fact that you have these properties that, as far as they know, are aimed at kids.
Right.
And so their immediate reaction is, well, because it's media that's created for children, we don't have to take it seriously and we don't have to care about it. So we can just use the name and the characters and do whatever the fuck we want, because little kids will bug their parents to go to the movie and we will make money.
And that's why you got the Super Mario Brothers.
And
exactly.
And that was also why this movie became a lesson, right? Like, it just was not good enough. Like, I saw it in the theater, but like none of my friends saw it in the theater. I remember that very specifically. You know what I mean? Like,
Adam, I beg of you, talk to us about the final battle and why.
Oh, good God, man! So, I mean, the whole cartoon, the whole action figure comic book, everything builds towards some kind of confrontation between He-Man and Skeletor, right? And He-Man always dummies Skeletor because Skeletor is insufficient to even come close to He-Man's power. So when this movie suddenly lightning the power of the god into Skeletor, I was like, fucking yes, here we go. Okay. we got this. The rest of this movie has not made any sense to me. Like, nobody I know or anything is in this, but He-Man's gonna kick ass here. And again, that opening strike where He-Man and Skeletor clash sword to staff. And then there's the big explosion of light. I was like, oh my God, yes!
That's the moment.
I'm in. And then it just turns into that slow motion weird battle again that's happened throughout the movie, because I don't really understand, like, Dolph Lundgren, again, in every scene, he's wielding this massive sword, which is clearly, like, must weigh like 60 pounds.
Right.
And he's swinging it, and it's so slow.
But see, the thing is, like, when they did Conan the Barbarian, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like John Milius made Arnold Schwarzenegger practice with a sword and practice kata and kendo.
It's why you see those moments where he's out in the desert just doing the sword movements,
which looks badass.
Because they made him do that for months.
He had to learn that shit.
Yeah. So they didn't do any of this shit. This shit was slapped together.
But again, the reason this last scene was the way it was because the movie ran out of money. 3 days before filming ended.
Oh shit!
Wow. So they literally were like, "We're not going to film this scene." And the director was like, wait, this is the climactic scene of the entire movie. We got Frank Langella in a fucking Skeletor
gold
costume.
Suit.
This takes 8 hours to put on.
We've already spritzed Dolph Lundgren with all the oil. What's going on here?
We're out of oil. We have to roll now. This is the only stuff we have.
They literally canceled it, and they were like, no, make do with what you can. Somehow the director convinced them to come back. But there was a complete skeleton crew of people. There was, like, if you look in the background of that scene, there's nobody, because
is that why it goes black?
It's all pitch black around them because there's nobody there.
That's why they put him in a
Here's
disco.
my theory.
Wow.
But again, let me finish my thought here. As a child, again, like that initial like strike where the sparks fly off. And you're like, oh my God,
that's the He-Man moment.
And then it's just like a half-assed, slow little ting, 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 ting.
It's the worst fight ever.
And then he crushes the staff in the middle, like, pretty quickly. Skeletor becomes Skeletor again. And he's like, surrender, Skeletor. I've got you now. And obviously Skeletor's not going to surrender. He starts pulling out his sword. And then, again, He-Man he knocks the sword out of He-Man's hand. He-Man gets the sword, turns around, and Skeletor literally trips over his own robe and falls backwards into the hole. And I was just like, he's supposed to be the fucking most evil person in the universe. Like, And he was just a god, and yet he just
has the
trips
power of
over his own
God.
feet.
Yeah.
And it turns out Skeletor was always a bumbling idiot.
Yes.
But anyway, so that was that. Yeah,
I'll
that was
get you, He-Man.
But again, because they literally ran out of money, and the $5 million that they had put in to boost the budget to $22 million, apparently they had partially used for Superman Returns and yada yada yada.
Oh shit!
So there was no extra money involved, so they filmed that for like thousands of dollars, whatever they could get, and just did it as quickly as they could.
Wow!
And
it shows. Yeah.
My theory for the final fight is this: I don't think they convinced anybody to come back. I think they snuck onto the set because it was still constructed.
Yeah.
They got Frank into the makeup.
So that's still Frank.
They brought in, or a stuntman even, if they had to.
Yeah.
They brought in Dolph, because it's not like Dolph is not going to do this. This is his second movie.
But actually, it's an interesting point to note. It's not Frank Langella in Skeletor armor in that last scene. It's the guy that played Blade.
Yeah, because he's a stuntman. Yeah,
actually, he's a weapons master. He's a sword fighter. That's what he did.
Oh shit! And it still came out like that. Jesus Christ!
They bring in the stunt coordinator. They bring in Dolph. They bring in like a guy to run a camera.
Yeah,
and they bring in the director.
Yeah.
At which point they possibly like steal a couple of lights out of somebody's basement. Set them up in the background, and we're like, we've got about 45 minutes until security knows we're here.
I got 2 lights and a camera.
Let's film it.
Yeah.
That's more or less what it was. Like Canon Films was in like receivership at that point, I think. So like they were like done.
I also love the fact that because they made Superman 4, that 100% explains why the main theme song to this movie is the worst ripoff of the Superman theme I've ever heard in my life.
And sounds nothing like the and
the credits too.
Yeah, like it doesn't sound like He-Man. Like it's just like, but the original He-Man theme wouldn't have fit this very well. Right?
No.
He-Man, it was very upbeat. Like this was very dark. Like
it's
very
Here's
weird.
the thing that boggles my mind. Like, what the fuck did they spend $22 million?
Yeah,
that's a very good point,
$22
man.
million. Dolph took it.
Like I said,
look, in Superman cost $50 million to make the first Superman,
really?
right?
Okay.
In the 70s, right? They had to make a guy fly on green screen.
Yeah. Wire work.
They had to create miniatures and have him lift things up. They had to create Krypton and all these
destroy Krypton.
So all of Superman 4 apparently cost like 16 to 17 million.
Wow.
And they had people flying around. They had people on the moon. They had this and that. And you're right.
The moon set was horrible, though.
You're totally right, Rug Boy. Though, like, where the fuck did the money go for this movie?
I have an idea for that as well.
Cocaine.
And bear with me.
Yeah, cocaine.
Damn it! All right, I was just gonna make a snorting sound in the microphone, but never mind. You guys already guessed it.
Give me another line.
They spent it on oil.
Yeah, to fucking grease up Lundgren.
I mean, how much do you think? Like, they had maybe 6 characters that were highly with makeup and effects.
Yeah, a lot of prosthetics.
They had to build that entire throne room set.
But
but that was kind of cheesy. If you look closely, it's just like plywood with like a texture put over
absolutely.
it.
That's not a very well built set. But like apparently that Castle Grayskull, like that throne room set, cost them $40 million to build. So that's where a lot of the.
Oh Jesus!
Oh, sorry, is that right? Maybe that's
no,
not right.
That's more than the whole movie.
That's more than the whole movie.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Sorry, take that back.
Probably $4 million.
Yeah,
maybe. But it was at the time it was the most expensive set they had built in 40 years. Sorry, that's where I got the number from.
Canon's most expensive set
because. Again, the entire movie was set in that throne room because they couldn't take it out of there.
They should have just shot it on location somewhere. Gone to like some crazy Byzantine,
some rocky terrain,
place in Istanbul or something.
Yeah.
Also, again, He-Man was always set in random forest environments, random desert environments. It doesn't matter.
I was gonna say go fucking George Lucas on it and just film in like the Goji Desert.
Right. Oh yeah, or like Morocco or some fucking place.
And apparently Gwildor. The reason there's a Gwildor and not an Orko is because they couldn't afford to float a character.
Yeah,
they wanted to have Orko in there because Orko was like the kid favorite.
Right, Orko was great. He was. I don't know what he was. He was just a hollow thing.
Nobody did.
What the fuck was Orko?
He was eyes with a hat on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would have been kind of interesting to see them try to do that, but like they couldn't afford the CGI, and also that's why Battle Cat's not there either.
Man, Battle Cat would have been great. I wish I saw more people from the cartoon.
You couldn't have Battle Cat in the movie as it is.
Without explaining.
If it's on Eternia, that makes sense. But you can't just have He-Man riding Battle Cat around fucking Cleveland or whatever it was.
I would have watched that. That would have been great. Clearly, the budgets were not there for this thing, and that's largely, and it's canon. I also read about the post-credit scene, which was like real early for post-credits. There was going to be a sequel, but then it all fell flat, and they ended up using the sets for Van Damme's Cyborg movie, which also looks like shit.
Which is a horrible movie. God damn,
it was gonna be He-Man Cyborg was gonna be the next movie.
I love Van Damme in that period because that was just post Bloodsport as well.
Yeah,
but that Cyborg movie is just dog shit. Holy God.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, that's a classic B movie.
Well, wasn't it Cyborg was basically them trying to redo like Universal Soldier, or was that after that?
Yeah, no, Universal Soldier was much later. Universal Soldier was like the late 90s.
Cyborg with Angelina Jolie, and that's her. That's her first big movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, geez.
Whoa.
Yeah, Cyborg 2.
Oh, yeah, Universal Soldier was like 95.
Yeah, that was later.
But the original script for this movie had everything that we wanted to see in it. You know, it had Battle Cat, it had Orko, it had a bunch of other like Trapjaw and all these other characters in it. And they were just like, yeah, no, we can't do that. So we're just going to toss it all and invent these random characters. Again, I still don't understand. The main thing for me is why they invented these, like, the evil guys.
Yeah.
So other than Beastman, the other three were new?
Those are all
Evil-Lyn and Beastman were legit.
Evil-Lyn, Evil-Lyn is character.
Yeah.
And Evil-Lyn was amazing. And again, a fun note to this is the lady that played her, I forget what her name is right now.
Meg Foster.
She said afterwards that she suffered like vagina trauma.
Oh wait, what?
She suffered pussy trauma from the costume because it was so tight.
That tight?
And there was so much plastic and shit involved in it that if she tried to bend over or sit down, it would smash into her crotch. So she was like, the reason my posture is so good in that movie and I look so fantastic is that if I moved, it would like traumatize my vagina.
That's your He-Man.
Who would have thought?
And the guy that played Beastman could barely breathe in the prosthetics.
Yeah.
The guy that played Gwildor, his face didn't move.
No, none of the lips moved.
No, actually, the Beastman thing, it just reminds me of all the stories coming out of the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, yeah.
The guys in the turtle suits kept fucking passing out.
Well, and they couldn't see anything.
I think it's very similar. They had to stuff straws into his nose so he could breathe at certain points and stuff. But yeah, anyway, but it's interesting that this was the biggest budget movie these guys could muster together. And
I mean, they had a legit amount of money.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I can't.
That is a good, even in the 80s, that's a good budget.
A good director and a good writer could have written their way into a way better movie.
Yes.
Well, an interesting little quote that I found, and this is in the show notes too, is Christopher Reeve at one point said, like, yeah, there's a reason Superman 4 sucked. He's like, they had 30 projects in development at the time. 30 projects.
Yeah, that's canon.
While it was like in the process of going bankrupt, they were just trying to develop everything they could.
Let's just shit all this out before.
Yeah, I think that if you watch that documentary, you see that the guys just say like they made the deal with absolutely no intention of like or no planning or anything. They just said, let's make the deal. Let's get the financing. Let's go. And then they worried about everything later. They just hashed everything together.
That's a great follow-up to this episode is that documentary. I can't wait to watch that.
One of the last factors that I think may have contributed to the downfall of this movie is that apparently Dolph Lundgren had significant creative input.
Oh, Jesus. Why are you letting Dolph make fucking decisions?
I was just saying, what if, like, when we fight, though, maybe, I don't know, I hit you with my sword? Yeah, Dolph, that's the whole fucking point, buddy.
So can we set, like, a bar for, like, what has come out up until this time? So we're at 1987. Was that Back to the Future already out?
Back to the Future was out, yeah.
Back to the Future was already out. That was
Howard the Duck was out a year before.
Star Wars.
That's not good.
All three Star Wars
Superman.
movies.
Oh, I see. Superman.
In terms of the hoverboard kind of sequences,
Indiana Jones.
In terms of the hoverboard sequences, we're looking at Return of the Jedi, I guess, as like the nearest kind of comparison.
The speeders.
Because Back to the Future 2 wasn't until 89.
And so it was like the rotoscoping kind of whatever they were doing, but like it was just, again, they clearly had no budget, so they zoomed right in on Lundgren's face and his chest when he was like dodging around. Like there was just these moments of him
together
moving around. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids had way better effects than that. You know what I mean? Like
so, like Aliens cost less in this.
Wow.
And Raiders of the Lost Ark cost less than this.
Yeah, I've no doubt. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
I mean, Spielberg knows how to use money. This guy.
I mean, you got like Aliens, which is like prosthetics.
Yeah.
Which is
it's all built sets.
Yeah, and the suits and shit. Yeah.
Creating a whole, universe that doesn't exist.
They had to make the little alien puppet that comes out of the stomach. All that shit.
Yeah. So, like, clearly, this funding.
Mismanaged budgeting on this movie. This is why probably this Goddard guy never made another fucking movie.
Yeah, the fact that they literally shut it down before the final scene was over.
That's amazing.
I thought that there was some reason why. Like, I thought they shot the movie and they had to reshoot the movie. That's the only reason that the Han Solo thing, where they shot a lot of the movie and then they had to reshoot it for some reason. And then they were like,
we can't use this.
That's the only reason I would think they would run out of money like that.
No, if they shot it twice.
And apparently they didn't even film that last scene and they were like, cut it off. Like, make do with what you have.
Jesus
like, what the fuck
Christ.
are you supposed to do as a director in that situation, right? Like,
also, fun fact, 2 months before this, Predator released.
Oh, shit.
On a budget of $15 million.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like,
they shit the bed.
And Schwarzenegger was a huge star at the time.
Yeah.
And in that movie.
Yeah, this was his prime.
Yeah, Carl Weathers was in that fucking movie. Like, you
have all this competition. This movie doesn't have a chance. Just a big wash.
I just don't understand when I saw that. Like, the biggest surprise to me after I watched this movie is I went and looked up the budget.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought this movie was like $12 million.
They could have done so much more for what they had, obviously, right? Like, it's again,
it's that thing where you get too much money in it. It's better if you have a smaller budget because you got to force yourself to be more creative. And they maybe just had so much that they didn't budget this thing properly.
So why is it you guys need more money? Because I can't think if I'm not eating just ham brought in from California. Okay.
Honestly, one of my favorite things about this entire research process was the fact that Lundgren somehow maneuvered himself, creative control, where he was like, I have 3 cuts to make my vocal cuts for the movie.
That's all he was worried about.
And I have some kind of creative input on the final cut.
I can only assume.
Because like apparently the director has been quoted as saying, as soon as I heard Dolph deliver his first few lines, I knew I needed to hire an actor. They would actually deliver these.
Jeez.
And then they ran out of money and they ran out of time because Lundgren was like, no, I can do it. Just let me record another one. So they were like, all right, fuck it. Let's go with the first ones.
I can only assume he was like, look, just give me 3 tries. And they were just like, yeah, dude, you're going to blow all 3 of them. We'll let you fucking sign that contract, whatever. And then they were like, yeah, we don't have money for another guy. You're going with him. He's like, fuck. Shit.
So I think that's why they cut around all of his scenes so hard, right? Like,
yeah, it's weird editing. A lot of weird editing.
He just comes again, like the scene where he's talking to Julie. He's like, it's like this big, and it's got flashy lights on it.
There had to have been a moment where there is a full exposition scene where He-Man is explaining Eternia and the war and Skeletor, and there was like, no, fucking get rid of all of it. I'm not listening to him.
That's where the money went. Wasted footage on fucking Dolph's take, so they couldn't fucking use.
20 million though, Imran.
20 million in wasted takes. Throw it all away.
But hey,
oh my god,
it launched Kevin Corrigan's career into Star Trek Voyager at least, and we got Courtney Cox and all this shit out of it. But
she went to New Jersey to be with Bruce Springsteen and dance on stage.
That was before. She did that before. She hadn't done a lot, but yeah, she went to dance.
Or she went to go work at the Bada Bing.
So as all things in Hollywood, they can't let a good idea die. Nobody has a real original idea anymore. So hey, let's fucking redo everything we did in the past. They have been trying to reboot / remake this movie since 2007. Oh shit. Apparently. People like John Woo, Mick G, David Goyer were all attached at some points.
All those sound terrible.
Yes. So we do have the final and last thing is the Nee brothers. I know nothing about these guys.
No one does.
They made one movie. They are the directors for this movie.
They've done the same thing.
And it has a release date of December 2019. It's coming out. Any hope for this movie, guys?
I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but
remember we talked on the show how they may go back and do the thing where Adam and Skeletor are brothers.
Don't do brothers.
Don't do brothers. No,
Game of Thrones
the original story.
Yeah.
Skeletor, again, it was very highly teased that Skeletor was He-Man's uncle. So he was King Randor's brother.
His weird skull-faced uncle.
Yeah.
And that's
Y'all
why,
have one.
because Skeletor, again, fought Randor, and that's how he got burned and turned into Skeletor.
Yeah.
And his nephew was the heir apparent to the throne, and he was trying to fight him. Making them brothers is totally Thor, totally Aquaman. Like
it's everything else. Yeah. It's Game of Thrones. But all of this reminds me of like Star Wars meets the Joker meets Vader meets Game of Thrones meets Thor. That's just the nature of Masters of the Universe. But
I think that you have to approach it from Grayskull. I think Grayskull is the key to making it different.
Absolutely.
All right. Like if you're trying to do a Game of Thrones type thing, then that's going to be Thor. That's going to be what we're talking about with Aquaman.
Grayskull needs to be like a character in the movie.
Yeah, Grayskull is like got to be like the source of power, or
well, there was a King Grayskull in the story. That's the whole point. Like he finds the power, and that he's the source of everything. Right?
I would honestly find it interesting if they went with a story that is almost like part Indiana Jones for a while, where like Adam has to go find the sword of power.
On Eternia, yeah.
And that's the whole thing, is that he has to go seek out the power in the sword so that he can defend Grayskull and become the legendary He-Man.
Because Skeletor is making an assault or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
That's kind of like how the 2002 cartoon is in a way.
Yes, that's what I wanted. Speaking of that, there is like the sickest He-Man media you are going to find is this Cartoon Network 2002 cartoon. I'll put links in the show notes to the opening, and then Ruggs sent this YouTube clip of Skeletor's origin.
That's awesome.
This is a fucking incredible. This is how you make a movie. Make it like this cartoon.
Just make a live action version of that cartoon.
Yes.
I love that Skeletor was apparently a dark elf.
Yeah. In this,
well, he's a Gar. So again, it's implied that like he's the half brother of Randor, but that means that their father fucked some random blue chick at some point.
That is totally
that's a good
Thor.
point.
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact same thing. He's a frost giant instead of being part of the Asgardians.
I mean, but they're still.
I'm into it.
But this was out in 2002, though.
Yeah, before all that, and there's still a way to put this material on the screen and have hints of all these things people love now.
Was that the same company that made X-Men Evolution? Because it looks like the same art style.
The same art style.
It's similar, yeah.
But I think
the opening of this is great because it starts with the He-Man narration, like the original, and then Skeletor just like interrupts him and blasts him, and it goes from there. Like I love the twist on the opening of this.
I did enjoy that too, yeah, for sure. But again, it's a story that was based on action figures that was based on comic books that people wrote randomly to sell the action figures, and then they hired some comic writers that invented all these characters, did all these things. Like there's a lot of history there. It's not that hard to build a good story out of it. Like you just got to pick and choose instead of just rushing towards the stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like
He-Man's been malleable since its inception, right? So, like you said, like they were trying to get something to market, and then they tried to figure everything out afterwards. But the thing that is great about it was the appeal of those figures and the idea that a sword and the Skeletor, that design of that thing is, and these beasts versus men, and men riding giant green tigers. It was like the world of Frank Frazetta. It was like that fantasy world come to life. Like basically John Carter of Mars and all that stuff.
It is just a gay man's fantasy.
Well, the appeal to kids was the fact that Prince Adam was a big pussy.
Yeah.
Even though he
was jacked.
Even though he was huge. Yeah.
But he did wear a pink shirt and over a white shirt and purple boots.
He wore a pink vest over a white unitard.
Yeah, it's the weirdest costume.
With purple hot pants.
Well, I mean, hey man,
boots.
Bruce Wayne is a total pushover, so.
Yeah. But I think what they need to do personally is embrace the Taika Waititi like Thor Ragnarok world.
Yes.
Oh my
Thor
God!
Ragnarok
Yes.
that's a great He-Man movie right there. Almost there.
And actually, to be honest, like the director again cited Jack Kirby at multiple points as in Gwildor's little workshop.
Yeah,
was he said that was his homage to Jack Kirby, and so. And it's a shitty homage, to be honest.
Yeah, but he was a fan, and it's interesting that he tried.
But that's what they need to do. It's just like it's just a fucking huge, crazy world with a portal that leads to somewhere else, and blah blah blah. And you just do that.
It's right there to be done.
Just
like
throw it out.
literally,
Like,
it's right there.
Don't leave Eternia though. Stay there.
I was going to say, don't even worry about portals. Stay on this goddamn planet and follow that story.
No, I meant the portal is more like they have the opportunity to leave and go elsewhere, but like keep it on
Or they could
Eternia.
jump
Absolutely.
around on Eternia or different planets, the whole universe. Yeah,
I like the idea that magic is kind of more mystical than it is on Thor's world.
It's just magic. There's no science behind it. It's just magic.
Yes, it's just magic, and it doesn't make any kind. There's no like way of explaining it and tying it into anything.
I just hope somebody has the balls to do that. Like I don't know.
I mean, the Nee brothers, maybe they can nail this, but it's literally it's a low hanging fruit. It's right there to make an awesome movie. Speaking of the cartoon and the toys that came out in 1981, the cartoon started in 83. I'd highly recommend watching that episode of The Toys That Made Us, because they tell you how they bullshitted their way through these pitches for these characters. They were like, oh, we got a comic book. You didn't know? And they were like, we have to make a comic book now. Oh, yeah, we're going to do a cartoon, by the way. And then they're like, by the way, we have to make a cartoon because I told them there's going to be a cartoon.
Oh, my God.
Pretty much goes along the same lines how Canon Films did their movies.
Yeah.
I just had an amazing idea.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
All right. So for the new He-Man and the Master of the Universe movie.
Yeah.
You have an opening event that is very similar to like the midpoint of Black Panther, where it is He-Man fighting against Skeletor. But Skeletor wins and winds up like, kind of throwing He-Man off a cliff or whatever he ends up doing, and assumes that this means he has won and he now has Grayskull, therefore he has the power and he runs Eternia.
Yes.
And when he discovers that the sword He-Man had is what was holding the power, he realizes he fucked up.
And now he's got to go find him.
And now he's got to go fucking find him.
That's a pretty cool idea. I like that.
I like it.
Well, originally in the comic book and with the figures, Skeletor had half the power sword and He-Man had half the power sword, so they had to combine
and they would combine them
to give the power of Grayskull.
Oh, because that doesn't have connotations.
You complete me.
But again, that
no, just stick it in. We'll be powerful.
Stick it together.
We'll hold it together and stick it in. That's the
hold it together and stick it in. You know what's cool about that 2000?
No, higher. You've never done this before, have you?
In that 2002 clip of Skeletor's origin, his sword comes apart to two swords when he's fighting him. I was like,
and that's exactly what happened. I had those original figures that are now worth like thousands of dollars.
That was the very first run, like the first 1981 run. Of course, He-Man has generated tons of memes and a bunch of shit made by Mattel. I found this it's kind of a sad note about Mattel. After Toys R Us, the Toys R Us closing down around the nation, Mattel is laying off 2,200 jobs this year because they're hurting because Toys R Us is gone. And they're struggling in the fourth quarter. So I was like, that sucks for them. And next note is the Toys That Made Us season 3 is coming out soon. Here's the toys on that season. They're going to do Power Rangers.
Ooh.
My Little Pony.
See, Power Rangers was after my time, so I don't know.
Power Rangers was
that's
after
when
my
we're
time.
in my fucking wheelhouse, baby.
Wrestling. Just one episode about wrestling toys.
That makes sense.
I had all those wrestling toys.
I had a lot of the stretchy wrestling toys also.
Those like 8-inch rubber toys.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could fling, and then the fourth episode, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, damn.
Nice.
Let me tell you,
that's a great series. I love
series,
it.
even if it's toys that you like, that's for girls that you never had, watch the episode.
The fucking Barbie episode is
Barbie one is
amazing.
great. The Hello Kitty episode is also really good. Like they're all really good.
That entire show, like honestly, the He-Man episode, there were points where I actually got teary-eyed because I was like thinking about my childhood while watching it.
That's such a great series. I hope they make.
I was very, very enthralled by the Star Trek episode
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
The fact that in the Barbie episode, they're talking about basically doing like corporate espionage to Japanese companies because they wanted to get their doll out first is just mind-blowing.
$1 billion industries, though, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
The Star Trek one, how it just never like really caught on.
It's just they couldn't figure it out.
They could, and they kept missing it. They would make the movie, and then they'd make the toy the next year, and it would alternate. They're like, "Fuck, we missed the movie year again."
What blew me away, though, watching that He-Man episode was that they were at the peak of their popularity when they shifted over to She-Ra.
Yeah,
you know, like they if they had continued with the He-Man concept and made a better cartoon and more figures directed at that.
Well, you got to imagine somebody was like, "What about the girls? We got to get the girls."
Well, that's exactly what it was. And honestly, I didn't dislike She-Ra. I had a She-Ra figure, and I did actually. I was one of those few children that like transitioned for a bit because they tied it in. Like again,
because He-Man would show up in the She-Ra too.
And Hordak, who was the bad guy in the She-Ra the She-Ra cartoon, was Skeletor's like boss from back in the day.
Nice tie-in, yeah.
So they did tie it in, and that was what hooked me for a bit, but it wasn't the same. You know what I mean? And it was a weird trend because instead of continuing both, they just canceled He-Man entirely.
They're like, we're gonna
move on to this, and it was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Okay.
Like,
well, now correct me if I'm wrong. By the time they moved it over to She-Ra, that was around the time that like Gem and the holograms and all that kind of stuff was coming off, right?
Yeah.
Well, and G.I. Joe was hitting it huge.
And shit. Yeah,
G.I. Joe was hitting it huge, and Transformers. Honestly, that was the transition for me. Was once the He-Man cartoons died off, G.I. Joe came into play in like 86, 87, somewhere in there.
Yep.
And I loved those cartoons so much. And Transformers was a fucking great cartoon for what it was at the time.
And you had GoBots. Don't forget about the GoBots.
Oh, GoBots suck balls. Come on.
Son of a bitch.
I could only afford the GoBots. The Transformers were too expensive.
I had some GoBots too because my parents could afford a lot of the Transformers.
Do a cassette tape, guys.
No, I had Leader 1 and the scooter from the GoBots.
But that was
Leader 1.
Remember Leader 1?
Optimus Prime and Leader 1. It's like, what a rip-off, like, weak sauce name.
And the bad guy was a motorcycle. I forgot his name.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't remember the GoBots because they sucked.
They were horrible. But dude,
Beast Wars, now let's get into that shit.
We can go on and on about our childhood toys. Delhauer, Adam Morris, fantastic job. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully we're going to see Prince Adam back on the screen late next year, apparently. If this thing happens, we'll be back on the screen. If you guys enjoyed this episode, check out all the other 8 What the Fuck Happens in reverse chronological order. No, I'm going to go with the first one first. I'm just going to read the names. You'll find all the links in the show notes. We started with Spider-Man 3, Fantastic Four 2015, Batman and Robin. Then we got into a little Ryan Reynolds trilogy doing Green Lantern, R.I.P.D., X-Men Origins Wolverine, Ben Affleck's Daredevil, and the last one we did, Howard the Duck. And if that's not enough content for you, listener, well, look, I'm going to give you a free month of Stitcher Premium right here. Go to Stitcher.com/premium. Use the promo code NERD. This is good through September 2018. And now you have hours of fucking audio.
If you haven't already, if you go do that, which, A, go do that.
Yes.
B, download all 10 episodes of Wolverine the Long Night.
Geek boner. It's very good, isn't it? Did you like it?
That shit was engrossing.
You being a part of Cape Swoosh Productions, I thought you would appreciate the fucking sound design that they put into this thing. It's incredible.
The thing that blew my mind, there was a thing they did for it that I'll try and touch on really quick that no one has done yet.
Is it the audio flashback?
Well, no, they did that. That was really cool. The way that they did it, though, is the way that they would record it. They would legitimately sit the actors in a room and have them act out the scene.
Yeah.
And have the microphones in there just recording the audio of it.
And they would go on location to the forest to get the guy rolling around. Some of these things were on location. Yeah, they pretty much set it up like a play and then just recorded that. That's crazy. And it works really well, though.
Actually, I want to drop one more piece of geek information here. That in the original comic books and the original cartoon, Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, who are the masters of Batman, the animated series, which we all love, they were heavily involved in the original development of those comic books and the cartoon.
Well, Michael J. Straczynski is the guy who came up with She-Ra.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know in the comics they had some pretty good talent working on the art also, I believe. Like, they were pretty good comic books.
Like, get Bruce Timm and Paul Dini involved in this movie. You know
That'd be
what I
awesome.
mean? Like,
That's a great idea. Fucking do Batman animated style He-Man. Right on, dude. I love these What the Fuck Happens because I don't have to do any work. You guys did great. We're going to wrap it up here. I don't have any mailbag.
Do you guys have any thoughts on She-Ra that they're releasing the new cartoon?
Well, I saw your
your Twitter rant,
heavily contested shit on Twitter there, Ruggs. And
I don't like to use the word biased, but
I don't think you're wrong in your assessment of the entire thing. Like, they're trying to reinvent She-Ra as a early teen girl right now.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to comment on what they're trying to do necessarily, but like, it's a different character entirely than what they were doing with He-Man.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Why get on? I don't know. Sorry, I lost my train of thought here. But like,
it's tough to come up with a point of view on this, right?
I'll jump on those tracks for a second.
Oh shit! There you go.
This is not marketed to me.
Yeah.
So I don't care.
That's a good point too.
I mean, are you guys going to watch it? Does it make you want to check it out?
I don't care. It's whatever. It's, young girls will watch it. If they enjoy it, good for them.
And that's
if they
who it's
don't,
for.
well, whatever.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Yeah, but what if you had kids?
I don't though.
Yeah, but wouldn't you care?
Maybe, but like if it's not teaching them to like shoot heroin, then whatever.
No, but I'm just saying that, like, there's a multitude of reasons besides a guy wanting to see tits on a girl, why they would be, or anybody would be concerned about just what they're doing. Now, I'm not concerned to a degree where I'm like adamantly against it.
Are they hypersexualizing her character? Is this the problem?
No, I
have not seen anything about this, so I don't actually know.
It has nothing to do with that. It's just that, when I saw the image, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like not the image that we've seen prior. They've aged her down, but they've also given her biceps and broad shoulders. So I'm like, that doesn't compute.
They made her more androgynous, right? Like they made her.
I'm like, it doesn't compute. If you're a younger girl, you're going to be thinner and more, whatever. You'd be like kind of more skinny. But why are they beefing her up? That just seems like
she's She-Ra warrior princess.
Yeah, so I think that's weird.
I'm assuming
if it makes sense to me, like that when you draw your sword up, like they did in the other He-Man, where he's a young kid, and then when he draws the sword,
then he's
like Shazam, and he's like, then that makes sense. But there's no explanation. That's what I was trying to kind of figure out what they were doing. I'm not necessarily against it. I'm just wondering why.
Well, no, and we haven't seen it. We're judging all this off of one fucking image, also. So we don't know.
The most I can assume is that they're just trying to play more on the idea of being strong. They can show her as physically being strong instead of having to adhere to just like a certain body type.
Sure.
Yes.
It's the most I could come up with off the fly.
I was just like, if you're, my argument is if you have like a tween age girl, a 12-year-old, they're not going to have any kind of any of those features.
And I totally agree. The way they portrayed her artistically looks weird.
Unless they've been lifting weights since they were 8.
Yes, or unless she turns into an adult.
Yes.
And then if she's an adult, then you can't say that she's a teenage girl. That's I was just very confused.
So we don't know.
I see the image now. I kind of get what you're talking about.
Right.
We don't know if they'll explain it or not. They may very well make it that it's very much like He-Man. That it's like the sword gives her fucking
muscles,
broad shoulders.
Muscles.
But that's the thing. The argument was the thing that I was calling hypocrisy on is like, well, if you're saying that she's a young girl, then that's not a young girl. If you're saying that, she draws a sword and she becomes an adult and she becomes empowered with muscles and stuff, then that's something different. But no one's saying that. All the arguments were like, oh, you just want to see tits on this thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
I get what you mean.
I watched that happen on Twitter, Rug Boy, and I thought about jumping in a couple times, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to partake in this.
Because no one can really, because I think what happens is that people don't see the actual argument. They just see let me polarize you.
Yeah. It's
and
Twitter.
not try and think about what are we looking at here.
Multiple people just literally said, "Oh, you want tits on a preteen girl," and you're like, "No. Like she should look like a teenage girl, not like a weird hybrid of like a man and a child or whatever."
I was gonna say it's as Imran put it. It's Twitter. And people are going to start a fight.
They just need something to fucking focus on.
Ultimately, the problem boils down to once we find out what they're actually doing with the show, we can finally know.
If it clarifies it, then I'm all on board.
Yeah, I was going to say, at the moment, though, the problem is that you are a man commenting on a show aimed at girls.
That is also
immediately,
true.
It's always going to be seen as you're going to have some ulterior motive.
But he's a puppet commenting. It's not the same thing. He's a fucking puppet.
Why can't I be curious about something without being an enemy?
Internet. I don't know. I can't give you an answer that's going to actually have reason.
Honestly, those original She-Ra cartoons though were like, as much as they were cheesy as hell, they were geared to be empowering to girls.
Yeah. And she was an adult and she had a short skirt on.
Yeah. And again, it was a very Supergirl costume, whatever. Yeah, but it was like the mid '80s. Like everybody had, considering the time frame. Yeah, he was actually very well covered. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But that's the thing. He-Man was buck naked, basically.
Exactly. He-Man was.
But that's beefcake. I mean, come on, Rug Boy.
Again, man, furry hot pants in a.
It's like that doesn't make you feel insignificant when the guy has got 6-pack abs and shoulders the size of boulders.
Oh no, dude! I've said for the longest time that He-Man was one of the biggest things that gave terrible body issues to boys. Yeah. But we're not allowed to talk about that.
I'm never gonna look like that. No. All right, look, let's wrap it up with some podcast shout-outs and some plugs. I got some voicemails. I'm saving it for the next episode when Anthony's back. First of all, thanks to Mike and Terry from the Between Two Brothers podcast. I got to talk San Diego Comic-Con with them. It was great to meet them, and it's a lot like Between Two Ferns, only a lot less awkward. So that's a plus.
And it's nothing like Between Two Ferns.
That's correct. It's nothing like Between Two Ferns.
How dare you?
Matt Delhauer, give out your plugs. I know you've been a couple of places doing some things. What's been going
on? Just this week, I got to co-host with TJ on Voice from the Underground podcast.
Yeah! I love those guys.
It was a lot of fun. This was the first time I actually worked with TJ. We had a great time just geeking out about Comic-Con and all the stuff coming out of there. So we had a whole lot of fun. We proved that we don't need Dutch or Big Haas to have a show.
No, you guys did fine. I listened to it. It was very good.
And last week, I released episode 3 of the Ginger Geek Pod, where I talked about Blade Runner and Cyberpunk and why our world is fucked.
Yep.
It is.
And I am fully prepared, no matter how much I'm going to kick and scream on my way there, to have another episode out by this weekend. So around the time this airs.
Right on.
Talking about The Dark Knight, the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And a little hint for you.
Uh-huh.
Nobody in that movie is a hero.
That's correct. That's kind of true. Dude, great show, listener. Definitely subscribe to the Ginger Geek Pod and Voice from the Underground. And where can they find you on the Twitters?
They can find me personally at Matt Delhauer. If you don't know how to spell that, you didn't read the title of the episode.
Exactly.
Or if they want to check out Ginger Geek Pod, it is at the GNGR Geek Pod, because some asshole has the full name as a Twitter account.
Oh, fucking get that guy. I hate that guy.
I'll sell it to you.
It's Ruggs that had it. It was the Rug Boy. Prince Adam. Boom. Thanks for kind of getting this thing going. Do you have anything you want to plug?
You can follow me at Adam D. Morris on Twitter. These days I'm pretty well behaved because I have a bunch of government officials following me and stuff.
Oh boy.
So,
sounds like fun.
It's more...
so no more dick pics.
More related to Arctic science, polar bears,
polar bear like dick pics? Is that allowable?
But I still share things related to comic books and pop culture, and my Twitter handle identifies me as the pop culture science guy for your podcast. So, follow me at Adam D. Morris if you want to know about science in the Arctic and comic books. And,
listen, man, we're lucky to have both you guys as contributors on the show. I love it. Ruggs, you still on the Twitter? Did you delete all your shit?
I deleted a lot of stuff.
Did anybody find your jokes from 10 years ago?
And
I don't even know. I couldn't even go. For some reason, I tried to go as far as I could, and then it stopped. And then it
you can't
stopped
even
feeding me
scroll
old...
back to 10 years ago. Yeah.
No, it wouldn't let me scroll back to a certain point in time. I only got to like maybe 1,000 deep, and then like I got whatever. I guess you have to do some kind of like voodoo to like
no,
really...
immediately that tells me conspiracy.
Yeah, something's up.
I don't know what that's about.
They've locked that away.
My decision lately is not to like really get into war after that whole She-Ra thing.
Yeah,
I was just like oh my god, like I really can't come at anything in any kind of objective way without getting ripped. So I'm gonna try and be more clear now.
Well, good luck, Ruggs.
I'm gonna be focused on being more clear and less kind of I don't know.
Honestly, man, it was ridiculous. I watched that thing happen. And again, like I said, I wanted to contribute, but I was like, I'm not gonna step into this. But like,
it's hard. But I go down swinging. I don't stop.
I was gonna say,
like,
recently, Rug Boy and I were in the part of a conversation talking about the whole James Gunn thing, and just basically pointing out so many different people where it's like, honestly, if you wanted to look into someone's past, no one should have a job.
And did everyone forget Disney has made some racist cartoons that are out there? Fucking throw out all your Disney shit. People forget this. At Really Rug Boy for all that fun stuff on Twitter for Rugs. And he's in the Facebook group. Good stuff, gang. Thanks for listening to the Jock and Nerd podcast. Subscribe to the show. You never miss a show. Tell a friend. Spread the geekery. Thank you so much. My name is Imran.
Oh, I'm Rug Boy.
He's the Rug Boy.
Anthony was here. Anthony!
Anthony!
Where's Anthony?
Anthony, fuck it. We'll see you next time, everyone.
I really missed that cue. I wasn't joking.
That was awesome.
He's right here.
Bro, do you even podcast?
Oh my god.
Boom.